Are you alone? You won't last 30 seconds playing this game. That's right, we're talking about the new open world interpretation of a popular 90s franchise, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I've already got a shiny Hoppip, I've got a shiny Skidoo. Okay, well, stop playing around. We're talking about Sonic Frontiers. I'm Chris Meekiness fan. With me, we have Steven, Smoothies.
Hi, I'm Smoothies.
We have Stefan, Games Enlisted. I was almost reading your Discord name out. I was like, that's...
Help! Help! I'm still stuck on Chaos Island.
Oh, you're going to be there for a while. And we have David, the Lurker.
Oh, hello. You should read my Discord name. I dare you.
No, thank you. We have to set the tone here. I imagine we're going to be talking almost always exclusively about spoilers. So we'll probably get a few minutes of general thoughts and then immediately go into spoilers. But first, spoilers. David.
Yes.
Sonic Forces is canon. There's nothing you can do about it.
That's right.
Your theory is upended. Our future content recording is destroyed.
Oh god! But yes, the Pocket Universe theory is dead in the water. If you jumped into the ocean and went to the bottom, you would find a skeleton, and in that skeleton, cradling the original FTCR video where I explain how it works.
It's okay. It deserves to be at the bottom of the sea. But we've had a journey with Sonic Frontiers here at FTCR. I think when it was announced, there was definitely some cautious optimism and cautious skepticism. I'm not sure there was clear excitement or concern one way or the other.
Steph and I were clear excitement.
There was no clear excitement from any of us here at the time.
Go back and read the transcripts.
As the months went on, we didn't know, but then the game came out, and I think we all like it.
And it was good.
Whoa, that's impossible.
Do we all like it? Stefan, do you like it?
It was.
Whoa.
Let me see if I like it. Yes! I'd say. I wouldn't say I'm in like. I mean, you have a lot of people being like all over the place with it. Like they're like people being like extremely like enthusiastic and excited about it. But I'm like in a thing of like, what I like about it, I really, really like. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm just like so tired nowadays that I'm like, I feel like if this came out a couple years ago, I'd be like super enthused about it, but I'm just like playing it, I'm being really happy, I'm having fun, and then ignoring the discourse around it and being like, I think it's because the discourse is just making me tired, and it's like, it makes me be like, oh, do I like this game more than I do? But then when I play it, I'm like, no, I really like it.
The proper take. Turn off all social media and just enjoy the thing, honestly.
Yeah.
Because as we're gonna go right into, it's like, it obviously isn't perfect. There's like a couple things that are like, like you could. It's a weird thing because it's like, oh, normally you're like, oh, like why is that there? Why is that there? With a lot of this, it's like, oh, like I could see how this could be even better if you just tweaked it a bit. And it's just like little thing here, little thing here, little thing there, and it's like, oh, it would have been like perfect, but like everything else that isn't there, it's like, oh, like they do that, they nail this, they nail that. It's like so much of it is nailed down so well, then it's like, like you don't need to. I mean, we can nitpick, but it's like that's not gonna like down your enjoyment overall. It just could be like it's fun in a correct environment. It's a game that's gonna be really fun to discuss. And I assume this is probably gonna be like 5
agree with
hours.
Stefan. I feel like this game was made for me. I remember there was some video a long time ago on this channel where I said, hey, I was playing GTA 5 and I was on a motorcycle and I was going around the map so fast and I was thinking, man, I wish I was Sonic. And man, I got the game that was made for me and it was so good.
We could have just modded the motorcycle to be Sonic.
Someone did that and it looked really bad.
Yo, let's go.
Yeah, like I don't know if it was my favorite game of last year, but one of my absolute favorite games of last year was Bowser's Fury. And part of that was just because just the notion of being able to explore this open world, running around, collecting stuff, just like with all these great little like platforming elements, and just being like, I was like, wow, like I've 100%. I mean, it's a 4-hour game, but I 100%ed it like I think like 5 times at this point. And I'm like, yes, this is like my perfect like go-to Mario game. I love games. I mean, it's like those open world games, but it's pretty much just like Bowser's Fury and then the Spider-Man games that I'm like that I love. Just this notion of exploring around this big open area and doing all these little tiny side missions while
Miniature
doing
levels.
the main story. And it's like, you have that, you do that, but with Sonic. So you have Sonic's fast speed running around these giant open plains, and you get all these little like mini challenges to do while you're exploring, and then having the story go on at the same time. And it's like, yeah, it's like, and they do that so it's just like, yeah, like I was waiting for a full-length Bowser's Fury. Sonic gave it to me instead, and I'm like, I'm very grateful.
Yeah, I love
Thank
Bowser's
you.
Fury a lot. You were the one who turned me onto it. You were like, you gotta play it, and I was like, and I finally played it, and I was like, oh.
I see
And
the light.
yeah, I remember comparing this game to Bowser's Fury before it came out, and other people were like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome," and that's mostly what it is. Bowser's Fury had some bigger level chunks amongst its open worldness, whereas Sonic's are like a lot of little chunks instead of a few big ones. But yeah, it works out. Chris, say something.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't ready to say anything.
Oh,
I was just listening to you guys.
Stefan, you say something.
David, you say something.
It's like
Smoothies, you say something.
it's a thing. It's a thing where it's like it's kind of hard to like in a grander scale. It's like easy to like compare and contrast and being like, oh, these are how they're similar. It's hard to like exactly say like, oh yeah, because like you said, Bowser's Fury has like specific level chunks and how it is, but that's like it's designed in a Mario, like say like all of those little chunks are like Mario levels, and be like, yeah, they feel like little galaxies that you play in Galaxy or little missions in Odyssey, while these are much more like it's a much more like just like open world, and like the little challenges you do are like rails and little platform stuff, but they fit Sonic style much more. So it's like Sonic can be like, oh, like Bowser's Fury I think is technically better designed. That's better designed because it's Mario, and it's like that wouldn't
better
work
design
for Sonic.
doesn't work
It's
for
like,
Sonic.
I mean, like one of the
It would. See, okay, I agree with you, Stefan. The fact that it's not. It is Sonic because it does not teach you how to play the game at all. So it is Sonic style definitely, but I do agree also that Bowser's Fury does it better because each of those little level chunks teaches you how to play those level chunks. I do wish that Frontiers did that, but it doesn't really have to, because each little chunk is like, oh, if I fail it, well, it was only 3 seconds of my life that I lost. I'll try again.
right.
And then it kind of teaches you in a completely uniquely way, which is they're not really miniature levels at all. They're too tiny to even be miniature levels. Like a snack is not a meal. They're like
Is it even a snack?
they're like athletic.
I call them
They're like
them little
they're
little
athletic
platforming
challenges. Is what I'm going to call them. Like they're just little athletic challenges, and like when you master them, you feel like Sonic, and it's really cool because like once you launch yourself and start doing all these things, like you get that little feeling where your skull connects to your spine, where you feel like you've gone airborne. Where when you're like driving a car and it goes off a hill a little too quickly, like you start to feel like you're doing all that, and you get attached to this character and you start doing all these physical things, and it really clicks. It's really good. I don't know how they did. I don't know what they did.
And it's great, like, and it's gonna go into more that we'll talk about later, but it's like the adaptability that the game has you, like it gives you a lot of, like I say, with those little athletic missions of being like, oh, you can like just do this little platforming, like rolling on the rails to go and get the trinket that you need to get, or you can do a running jump and boost, and then you boost in the right way and you can get that trinket without ever actually touching that. It's like it gives you all these little things that you can play around with the game's controls and level design and like the moveset that you have, and by doing that you can like do all those little athletic
It respects
missions in different
laziness.
ways.
Yeah,
And that
it's really
extends
good
to
in that way. Like,
yeah, and it extends to the rest of the game that we'll get into more, which is that there isn't like one exact way to do everything, and that it gives you a lot of different opportunities to be like, oh, you don't want to do this, do it this way. You want a cheat way of doing that? Well, how about you do this? Or, oh, you get lucky. You don't have to do that because you found something lying on the ground. And it's like it's a game that encourages and rewards exploration. It's like technically you don't need to explore and do all the little extra stuff, but if you do that, then you basically get rewarded of not having to do all of the quote unquote.
Well, there was a lie
required stuff.
early in the one of the interviews where Kishimoto said that you don't have to play a single cyberspace level. It's like you do. You got to play
You
them.
can play 2.
You got to play them in every level island you go to. So,
No,
no, in order to get
There's a
enough
couple
keys
ones
to get
you
those
don't-
some of those Chaos Emeralds require you to get like 20 keys.
Right.
I'm sorry, but you got to play some levels.
Well, you could just loop in place for 6 hours.
Yeah, for 6
Go
hours.
Yeah,
fishing.
then you. I mean, eventually you can fish. Oh, that's a spoiler. Spoilers.
Yeah,
There's fish. There's a.
It's officially announced. It's on the YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
Officially.
There's a fish.
Yeah. It isn't exactly the whole thing of like, oh, like you literally can't do anything else, but it's like, oh, you can like, yeah. So it'll be like, it's not a thing where it's like it's easier to go ahead and just do those things, but it's like, oh, if you want to make it harder for yourself, then you could go ahead and just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna go and run around and just try and get lucky, or just do nothing but fishing. But it's like, hey, it's still an option. And I think that is like, yeah, I feel
Harder
like
option.
doing the way the game would have to squish around itself in order to make it so that, oh, you could play the game without ever actually touching them like at all would probably be a bit too much. But the way they handled
Painful.
it in here, I think they did it the perfect way of giving you all these options to be like, it's your choice to decide.
I
how you wanna
like
go
the
about
fact that
this.
it's like you only have to play 2 or 3 levels if you want. I think that's good.
Yeah.
But I don't agree with the fact that it's like you don't have to play any at all. No, that's not true.
I beat the game and then realized after the fact there were a couple cyberspace levels I didn't even go to. Like I didn't even put the gear in. And I was like, wait, I still need achievements. And so I went back and went, I missed this completely. Let me enter it. Let me go. Let me run.
I think you did the exact same thing I did, which was I went to a part not realizing that was the final boss. So I went, oh shit, I didn't finish my cleanup of the final island yet. So then I had to go back and then do those, I think, final 2 cyberspace levels, because I didn't realize that, oh crap, that was the final
there was-
boss trigger. Because like normally, I mean, not like, yeah, 'cause normally the games will be like, oh, this is your last warning.
Yeah.
Like I'm so used to being like, oh,
Yeah.
this is your last warning. Do not go. But like this game didn't have it. But it's
You
like
can-
whatever. It's like that's like a minor thing, and like nothing happens if you
It's
don't
very
not
minor,
do those. So
Because you
it's
can
like,
go
yeah,
back
it's
to
just-
previous islands in an
it
instant.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
Right. Those percentages on the screen trick you because they don't
How far did
really mean. Oh.
you finish?
Oh yeah, the percentages on that screen where it's like, choose your island. It's tricking you because it's just telling you how much of the map exists. It's not telling you anything else.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's percentage of the map and also
No,
the
it's not the
cyberspace stuff.
cyberspace because
I'm still like,
No, it's
all
just
the
map.
maps were 100%, but I still hadn't done 2. I hadn't
No,
even
well, no,
unlocked
but no.
2 of the cyberspace levels in previous islands when I finished
And
the
it said
game.
100.
okay, that's weird because my first island cyberspace says 96% on it, even though I completed the
Well,
the whole
then
map.
you have data rot.
Right, or maybe you haven't actually completed the map.
Frankly, you should check
I should
yourself.
also explain. I should also explain. We all play different
yeah, true.
versions, and I played the
Oh,
I played
so it
the
might be
Switch
broken.
version. So
Everybody
baby.
I
point
got
laugh.
the
Right.
weaker experience.
Although the Switch
But
version
he played
has-
the worst version and he had fun.
That's impossible. You can't have fun on the Switch.
Clearly, he's a shill.
I feel like it gave me a lot of similarities to my experience playing Spider-Man Miles Morales on PS4, because like that version was buggy as all hell. It broke at one point, but I still had a fun time because it's like, oh, it still functioned most of the time, and it's the style of gameplay that I really enjoy. So yeah, I had fun with it. And then yeah, Frontiers on Switch kind of had like some issues of being like I know like there's the thing that people bring up a lot about the pop-in in the game, and the pop-in in the Switch is especially noticeable, especially in like cuts. Like the pop-in in the cutscenes is like very bad, where like every time it cuts to a new angle, it'll like you see like the pop-in of like the frames and like the graphics
Trying to
trying
catch
to
up.
like re like jiggle itself. Yeah, and it's like, oh, like I kept being like, yeah, It's like I'm trying to like distract because I know like, okay, this isn't a thing on the other consoles, so it technically isn't a problem with the game. But then I'm also like, it's still in the game, and it's really noticeable to me. And also, I believe the Switch version is the highest selling version of the game, so that's a lot of people's experience. So it's an issue.
No,
that
I think that's worth
bring
talking about because, like, what's the most sold console in Japan? And they marketed this really, really hard in Japan. Everybody's buying the Switch version. Everybody's having the same experience as you over there.
Right. I mean,
So it's like,
it's sold
Couldn't be
pretty
me.
well in Japan, right? Like, if you count all, like the week it came out, if you add up all the different versions, different platforms, wasn't it like the best-selling game that week? Wasn't that the thing?
It's real in the weed stuff. Like it was like 47,000 copies, which isn't not a lot.
Right, but
yeah.
there was nothing else. Like they didn't. It's not like God of War beat. I mean, it technically beat it, but only like if you separate the platforms. I think was the way it worked. Right. I don't have the numbers on me. I think to pull them up. I can't be bothered.
Yeah,
oh, gee.
yeah.
I can't be bothered.
I can't be bothered to go to Google.
The game did really well.
We
That-
can't be bothered to
that's
play
what
Sonic
matters, is that
Frontiers.
the
Right.
game-
But that's the thing, like, yeah, they really wanted it to do well in Japan, and I think it has, even if there are some Japanese Sonic fans who are super confused by the story because they feel like it was Google translated, which supposedly it wasn't, but I think it's funny that they're experiencing what the West has experienced when it comes to Sonic, with things not making
Haha.
sense.
It's your turn, Japan.
Ha! We say.
Now it's your turn. Although I think it's weird because it's like I don't think the script is that like complicated to be like. Would it really be that weird to translate this over to? It's not like the dialogue is very
Well,
like
Stefan.
exaggerated. Like I didn't.
What?
And then David intervenes.
Yes. Well, what Kishimoto said, the director of the game, was he was like, oh, I wanted to rewrite the dialogue so it would make more sense for Japanese sensibilities. Like, he was worried, I guess, that the script was too Western and had to make it more Japanese. Whatever that really
Do we
means.
have any examples of like line changes? Because I feel like we might be just talking in the dark if we
I
don't
don't
actually.
But that is what he said,
That-
but we don't have... Do we have examples?
I don't think anyone's
I did see. I saw a tweet of somebody bring up an example, but that was like several
Right.
weeks ago. So that
I know at the
We'll have to wait for Wendy to
translate.
translate it.
Yeah.
Get on it, Wendy.
right. Well, I know there's at least a little bit of like they were making fun of the beginning because when they were flying in on the tornado, everyone in English tales mentions that there's some kind of atmospheric charge. Hang on, and then they crash through portal and Sonic does a cyberspace. But apparently in the Japanese version, Tails is like, there's radio waves, and that's what causes them to crash, which doesn't make any sense because radio waves don't make planes crash.
No, they never do.
No. So
Unless you forgot to align them with tinfoil.
Right.
That'll get
yeah,
you.
and I know that there's I know in the Japanese version, like just listening to the Japanese voices, like I don't really know what's being said, but there are definitely times when Sage is in English saying you need to go away. You're gonna doom us all, and instead she's just like, oh, you're Sonic the Hedgehog. You're a supersonic. You're a super fast hedgehog.
Guy.
Goodbye. And it's like, oh, what you like in the English there's some
Thanks, Siri.
pathos happening, and instead she just the bit when Amy meets Sage and she's like, well, at the end she's like, who is that girl? What is going on? Who is that? Like in the Japanese, I think she already starts explaining that she's a creation of the Doctors. So like there's some mystery that's already disappearing. And I also know that spoilers in the very last scene, Amy.
Oh, should we just we're just gonna say spoiler
Yeah,
territory
it's
from
all
here on out,
spoilers.
just to keep our lives
I do
simpler.
know in the
we
very
all like the game.
right. I like the game, so if you haven't played it, I don't know why you're listening. At this
We
point.
like the game. Go play it.
We like the game, but yes, at the very end, Amy makes a reference to Styx the Badger. In the Japanese version, she does not. However, the reference to Tangle is in both versions. So make of that what you will.
Sure.
I mean, are those Tangle? Are those Tangle plushes available in Japan? And also, is Sonic 4 is the Sonic Dash game? Is that
they're getting the comics over
Yeah,
there.
they do have the comics.
IDW has a Japanese version.
Right. I mean, I think the
And
comics
they got
are
the
enough.
comics, too.
It's
Yeah, 'cause I'm
Archie
like,
was never translated into Japanese. It was never released over there.
Thank God.
What? I want Japanese salad.
Could you
Nothing.
imagine
What? I didn't say
Japanese
anything.
Ken Pender fans? Oh no,
There's at least
he
one.
had the
Chris,
right vision.
and we have to meet them.
there has to be one. Yeah, by like law of averages, there has to be
If
at
you
least
are,
one Japanese.
if you are a
Archie
Japanese
Sonic
Ken
fan.
Penders fan and you are watching this, please contact us at FTCR at.
I would love to interview a true
Gmail?
Ken Penders fan who lives in Japan. Yeah. I mean, I might not be able to if they don't speak English, but they'd have to because it's Archie.
They're listening to this.
Yes, that's right.
Nah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Well, and also they would have to have read.
Where did we leave
somehow,
off?
So they would have to know what happened.
The Japanese
Right, we're
script
talking
is
about
weird,
the,
maybe.
Yeah, we were talking about the script a little bit. Talking about because, yeah.
And do you think that Kishimoto used Google Translate?
I don't know if he did, but there were Japanese fans who said this reads it. None of this dialogue sounds natural. It sounds like they
It
just
feels
put it into Google Translate, which tells me,
right.
even though he was very passionate about the fact that he rewrote it, I'm sure I can find the quote if I look. Maybe he's just not the best at writing dialogue, which is something we don't have to worry about because we're I guess in this instance, the English script is definitely like the canon version, right? Like that's what the cutscenes are modeled after. Like, because I guess there are also some instances where like the facial expressions and the way the characters are looking, it makes sense in English,
Yeah.
and in Japanese, it makes no sense whatsoever what they're doing.
Wait, no sense.
Like it's just confusing. Yeah, like there's a couple instances.
What's an example of the no sense?
I don't remember.
I also harbor some skepticism in general. Like, did it come from Japanese fans?
Yeah, it
or
was from-
people
it was
who kind
from-
of speak some Japanese.
It was from Japanese fans. There were some tweets early on where they were just laughing
Give
at.
me an example, David. I need proof.
Prove
I need
your
a hash.
Yeah, it was the same thing. Yeah, I saw tweets from Japanese Twitter where they were like responding, being like, "Oh, this
Okay.
looks weird. Yeah, this sounds weird." So it's like, again, it's been a while, so it's like I can't bring up any specific references, but I do remember seeing tweets of like people from Japan being like, "The
Okay,
script
I just
sounds
want to make
weird."
sure it wasn't a thing where like some people learning Japanese were like, "Well, this is bad, guys," and then like two people said it and it spread. But if it was actually coming from Japanese Twitter, then
Right.
I'm more inclined to believe it.
Yeah, no, I normally hate that, so I was like, when I saw people be like, "Okay, yeah, it was Japanese people
Okay.
saying," I'm like, "Okay." And then it was spread by like English people being like, look at this. I wonder what this means.
I didn't see any of that.
And it's just
And you're
like,
not sharing any of it.
I
How
don't-
do I know what happened?
Oh God!
I am
Is this-
angry.
Maybe we could.
I'm
search
the
in Japanese.
audience. I am projecting what the audience is thinking.
Maybe we should talk about the script that we can actually understand.
But we don't
please.
understand the
Read.
English script because it's a little weird.
That's right. Oh, but here's a story from Sonic Stadium that says it is the fastest selling mainline Sonic game in Japan in the last 20 years. So that's something.
That's not what we were
Okay.
talking about.
No, it's what we were talking about before.
I was not gonna lie, I was still sitting here waiting for the gameplay talk.
Yeah, let's talk about. We should talk about the game itself. You know, the
Okay,
story,
sure.
the lore. That's not what people care about. People care is Sonic fast.
Because I want to hear though, because I haven't actually gotten a chance to talk with you about like the game, and it's like, I mean, Sonic Frontiers is Sonic the lore, the game, and I'm like, I want to hear from the lore master what he has to think about all of this lore and expansion of the
It's like
universe.
asking a history teacher, did this happen? And he'll just be like, yes, it happened.
Yes. The Revolutionary War was an event. Let's go. And then we hop in our little plane and fly there.
I watched this game I watched the cutscenes and it was like, you remember the time? I was like, yeah, I remember the time. And you remember the time? I remember the time. You remember the time? I remember the time.
Well, it does like it.
And I'm thinking about, but I'm thinking about the Japanese audience where they don't remember the time because a lot of them don't play Sonic games as much as we do.
That's true. They didn't.
And so when Sonic is saying, hey, remember the time, and Tails is like, remember the time, and Amy's like, remember the time, they're going to be like, no, I don't.
If
This is my first Sonic game in
I think
10 years. Who's Infinite?
like that's what I was thinking more so about, like when saying like it's hard to translate the game over to Japanese because like the dialogue itself I don't think is really, it doesn't feel like it would be that, like again, I'm a stupid English speaker, so it doesn't feel like it'd be that complicated to translate. But I do agree that yeah, the fact that this is far more referential than like in terms of its like writing than any other Sonic game before, it does feel like yeah, that'd be kind of harder to translate over because it'd be like, oh, we need to write it in a way it's like, oh, a lot more Japanese fans are not going to be as familiar with all these references, so we need to write it in a way to be like, oh, make this more accessible to them but also staying true to the story. And I think especially because that's as someone who's like followed Ian Flynn's writing style for a long time. I think that was the whole thing of being like, I wondered when we knew that Ian Flynn was going to be writing it, I'm like, are we going to see, like, am I going to like see it and be like, oh yeah, like that sounds like Ian Flynn, because it's like, oh, he has a very flexible like writing style, and it's like I was thinking it'd be like, oh, maybe like the game's a bit like I was thinking like, oh, the characters are going to be a bit more wittier, or maybe like, oh, the characters are going to be like, oh, like they're not going to be as flanderized as they were in other projects. But I do think like all the references itself, that felt the most Flynn out of anything in this game, because that's something that he doesn't get a chance to do as much in IDW because of IDW being very limited in what it can and can't do. But what I think it felt the most to me is in the post-reboot Archie era, like during the Unleashed stuff, where it was like the universe had like grown to be like, oh, it's like the games happen, but it's also in this own universe that references all like takes from all these other different parts of Sonic. And it's like you see he's telling his story with these characters, but then he'll pull little bits and bobs from every piece of Sonic lore that he can think of and then tells a story out of it. Like the example I always use is how he does, Sonic 2, he takes Sonic 2 8-bit, he takes the plot of that, he combines it with the episode of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog with Breezy, and then has those events lead into the events of Tails' Adventure with like Wendy Witchcart, and then have her be the sister.
Now I'm feeling like Chris. What are you talking about?
And it's like I'm just using it as being of like, oh, Flynn loves to take all these little pieces of Sonic lore and like have this big understanding and acknowledging of what Sonic has done, and using that to tell a story like out of pre-existing material. So it's like in here, like so like the biggest thing is of like that we referenced before is that Tails acknowledges the events of Forces about how he turned into kind of a coward and was like kind of useless in Forces, and he takes that and he's like, oh, it isn't just because, oh, remember the time when this happened. He uses that event to be like, oh yeah, like that event is still kind of weighing in on Tails, and you see how this connects to his character and like his what he's done in all the other previous games, and how this leads to him trying to be like, oh, like I'm feeling more of a burden, and I don't want to be that. I want to try to like grow, but I feel like I'm just stagnant in this Sonic's shadow no matter what I do. And it's like, it's that character growth that is built from past events, and by acknowledging that, it's like, oh, it allows you to move on a bit more. And like that felt
like cleanup to me. That felt like Tails already went through this arc. The people who wrote the Forces plot didn't know what they were doing. They had Tails go through the same arc. That felt like it was cleanup on Ian's part. Be like, oh, hey, remember the time I went through the arc twice? I'm wildly inconsistent. I won't do it again. I'm going to go on my own adventures, Sonic. Oh, I didn't expect you to grow up on me so fast. Blah, blah, blah. I feel like that was just cleanup. To answer Chris's question, because
What?
because you said earlier, what are we talking about when I was ranting? I feel like American audiences know Sonic more than Japanese audiences do, and I feel like all these references that Ian has written in, if they were translated over into the Japanese script, that a lot of the Japanese audiences would be even more lost than if this was someone's first. Like if this was someone's first Sonic game playing this, they'd be like, "What are they talking about? All these previous adventures? I can't relate to any of this. What?"
But
Yeah, the story, like I feel like the game is kind of designed in a way of being like, oh yeah, like any like the game, like if you took the gameplay by itself, it's designed in a way of being like, yeah, it's making it more accessible to anybody to jump in and being like, oh yeah, like this, you could like give this to somebody as their first Sonic game,
Yes.
like gameplay wise, and be like, yeah, like that would work. But story wise, like it doesn't
It does
not
not
work at all as someone's first Sonic game, because it definitely felt, because I think I had just seen Johnny's video like a few days ago, and he mentions how it really feels like, it doesn't feel like where most other Sonic games where
Yeah.
it's very episodic and like, oh, like the characters are just kind of go on an adventure and then their characters are just static. But like here, it's like by acknowledging those previous games and by like the way the characters like journey is in the story, it's like, oh, it feels like they go through an arc. It's like it's actual character progression, to the point where it feels like the game ends in a way of being like, oh, it feels like something's gonna change next game. Like it's not like, oh, things are gonna be back to normal next game. It's like, no, it ends in a way of like, oh, like these characters have like gone through something, and now if we see them again next time, it's gonna be, at least it should be, in a very different form. And it's like, yeah, it feels like it's going from like cartoon television to like modern serialized
But you can only
storytelling.
appreciate that if you played all the different times Sonic and Tails say "Remember the Time." Like you can only appreciate it that way.
why?
So it's like,
Why wouldn't you? Who hasn't played every Sonic game?
Yeah, and as someone who has, I appreciate, like, I'm like when you see like hearing in the Eggman logs him reference South Island and West Side Island for I think the first time in literally anything English, I'm like, what? It's like, I pulled
that's
it
why
down
I
to
said
be
earlier,
like,
this is a game made for me.
it's
because
real.
I played all this, I know all this. It's like, hey, this is for me, haha.
Yay.
But then I think about the people who's this is the first game, and I'm like, oh no.
There's a slight thing I do want to push back on a little though, because like I think it's very easy nowadays for people to get stuck, and I'm not going to blame the MCU for this, but it's very much like you need to learn and play all the other stuff and watch all the other stuff before this one. Like I don't know. I think there's just some credence to the idea that you can jump into a story sometimes later on and just get curious about what led to that moment, right? Like for me, the great example is Metal Gear Solid 4, which is the most you need to have played the other games to half understand this game I can think of. And I played that one first, and it just made me like, man, I like the way this does things. I don't know what's going on, but I want to go find out what the fuck is going on. Like I want to go play the other games and see how any of this makes any sense, right?
Oh, I'm the
like I'm not
opposite.
going to sit there and say I understood it, but it made me interested enough to go actually do that other stuff. But then if we all like go, oh yeah, that's an okay viewpoint, we then have to circle back around to the inevitability of if a kid wants to play SA2 right now, they don't have many options. So maybe it's all a little moot anyway.
It's on Steam, but you can't play a majority of Sonic games at all. Officially, you can
let's
can
say a
emulate them.
Switch.
I
Yeah,
didn't
like
say
if
that
a kid
word.
has a Switch.
Hey, Origins came out. You look.
Like if a kid has a Switch,
That's
it's like, oh man, what's the arc? I guess I'll just watch this on YouTube.
That's right.
Yeah.
Although I mean like what, I'm trying to think of like what are I mean, it's like I think like Heroes Shadow, I think like Heroes Shadow and 06 are like, and then Secret Rings and Black Knight. I think those are the only there's only mainline Sonic games that like are hard to find. Like literally every other game you can find, like either they're all on Steam or Unleashed is on the Xbox.
If a
store.
kid has an Xbox and
So it's
a
like-
PC to game.
Right.
Yeah, you
But, like,
can play all the main games.
this is
Like,
a
you have
separate
access-
discussion, but,
yeah,
like,
people
I
have
don't-
access to all the.
I'm just thinking of like kids who are like, I like the movie and I played Sonic Roblox. I have a PlayStation 4.
Right.
Well, what do they
That-
do? I have a Switch.
But I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think
I feel like both.
I don't think a
both-
kid
yeah,
who's
yeah,
like, I really like the movies, I want to play the game. I don't think they're going to get super confused with the fact that Sonic and Tails are referencing the fact that they had previous adventures. I mean, it's like, well, right, you were talking about Metal Gear Solid 4. It makes me think of old comic books, right? Where before the industry became what it is now, it was a thing where every comic book could have been someone's first. So you'd go in and you'd buy Adventures of Superman number 527, and you just better hope you pick up what's going on along the way, because they would also like either say, check out this issue. Yeah, there'd be
Look out,
citations.
issue 47.
Right, or they'd explain something in a way that no one in real life would, because, oh, you'd remember that thing we just did last week. But so the references, they add color, they add texture, but I think for the most part, because even like a lot of things about the character building and things are hidden in the little side stories that you don't even have to touch. If you just want to focus straight on with the game, if a kid is playing it and they're enjoying playing Sonic and they hit a cutscene and they're like, I don't remember, I didn't play that game, they'll probably just go, oh well, the cutscene's over, I'm going to run some more. I don't think they're going to care too much about the fact.
That's how it was for me with Sonic Adventure as a kid. You know, they would reference other things and they'd be like, all right.
Hardly.
I think especially because honestly, I don't think the references will be the turnoff. I think the turnoff for kids would be how really melodramatic the entire story is. It's like again, as someone who isn't a kid and who's played so much Sonic, I'm like, I appreciate like this. Like I thought it was weird at first to be like, yeah, this is very kind of slow paced, and being like, yeah, it's very melodramatic, and it's like everybody's performances is so low pitched. It's like, oh, it's like you're so used to the high octane exaggeration of all the characters and the performances. But then like by I think like the second island, I'm like, I got used to it and be like, oh, like I'm appreciating this, the kind of the character, but like the story is very simple, but it's like it's very character driven, and like seeing Sonic's interactions with Amy, Tails, and Knuckles of being like, oh, it's like I like every time I get to a thing, I just want to sit there and be like, okay, how are these guys going to interact at this moment? And being like the first when you get to the second island and Sonic fights Knuckles, and you just have that moment of Sonic having that like smile, and you just see that, and you're like, he's thinking, oh, I'm gonna give this man shit once I open it up. And then he gives him the fuck eyes the entire time, and it's like, oh, it's fun just seeing that playful banter between them, which you haven't really gotten in a game in a long time. But then you also have kind of like the somber moments of they just kind of standing there and just kind of like very like softly spoken talking, and like talking about like the lore and like the question of being like, where did this world come from? And I feel like, yeah, like kids would probably like not really like, even if they didn't took out all the references, the story itself might not catch kids like eyes, because it'd be like, yeah, it's like I just want to skip, I just want to keep going fast, I don't want to like hear all this like explanation about ancient aliens and stuff like that. But it's like, oh, like I appreciate that, so I'm gonna enjoy it. It's like if a kid's not gonna like it, well, as Michael Jordan said, fuck them
Sucks
kids.
for them.
That's what he said. Right. There was a lot you could dive into the story, but Chris was like, hey, we wanted to talk about the gameplay. Maybe we should talk about the nuts and bolts, because I feel like our conversation should dwindle when we're like, we have nothing else to say about the story and we're done. We should talk about the actual game. Let's talk about the fact there's 10 million grind rails, but for some reason I didn't hate 99% of them this time.
It's because grind rails aren't bad. It's just it's when they're designed well, they're good.
Yeah.
It's just like any other thing.
Yeah.
Any other thing. If it's designed well, it's good. It's not the things that are bad. It's when they're placed in a certain way that they're bad or good.
Right. One of the things that I really enjoy about this game in the overworld, in the main part of the game, is that if you fall, you just land on some dirt and you're like, oh, okay.
Yep.
And that's why, like, levels like Rail Canyon, which Sonic does reference in the story, and I'm like, why in the world would you ever talk about Rail Canyon? Rail Canyon is the worst, one of the worst levels, because it's just rails over nothing. It's like, yeah, but here it's rails over something, like the real world. Well, okay, there are no rails just floating in the real world, but
Like the real world.
like the real world.
No, David, that's Ancient's technology. Okay.
Oh,
I don't
Oh,
think
hang
you
on.
get it, bro.
Hang on. I don't know. We gotta talk about that.
oh yeah, we're gonna have to.
These rails, they must have come in after Eggman did all this stuff, right? He came in, he activated the things, and then the rails, like, came in afterward, right? They weren't just there on the island beforehand.
Some of the rails
Because some of-
are.
Some of the rails have little Eggman iconography. That's the word.
Iconography.
Some of the little things have that, and it's like, oh, was that from Eggman's memory, or did Eggman build them, or were they from Sonic's memories?
I
What,
I don't
what
think.
made them?
Well, the springs in the open zone that have Eggman's face, he must have put them there. I don't think any of those would be from his memory because that's not cyberspace. It's the real world. All the ones that are
But-
in the cyberspace levels, like yeah, that's all memory stuff. But the other ones, I think, are just he must have
Because
put
we
them
know
there.
that Eggman likes to build little worlds and little springs and rails and stuff. That's what he likes to do. But we also know that Eggman came to this place. He put all these caches everywhere. He had a Death Egg robot from Forces, etc. And then the rails are built around those things, but also there's a lot of platforms that are built for collecting memory tokens. He wouldn't have built those platforms and rails leading to memory tokens. Why would he do that? They must have been built after Eggman had gotten sucked in, and they were made when Sonic came out. They must have been made for him.
But-
like, these are your challenges. You solve this. You get to prove yourself to do the thing.
But I mean, are we supposed to think that anything that's in the overworld is from cyberspace? Because why? If cyberspace is
Yes, because when he solves puzzles, certain rails appear.
Well, yeah,
so
but
why
he's-
wouldn't they appear beforehand?
well, he's solving puzzles, but those puzzles exist. So it's the ancients have advanced technology. It's not all just cyberspace.
You're telling me the Ancients were doing those walk around on tile puzzles? Oh,
No, they weren't. I feel like the ancients were like, hey, these emeralds, we're going to attract them at some point if someone activates this, etc., etc. Well, we have to lock this down, and only someone true of heart should be able to open this. But then again, why should anyone be able to open this? Because we know what we sealed. Should we talk about what they sealed?
Well, because also isn't the whole thing like the voice that is taunting, that is like pointing Sonic toward like everything is the thing that's captured? Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure like that. Like,
Right.
isn't
Yeah,
that
it is.
what it was supposed to be. So it's like, yeah. So it's like basically like the villain telling Sonic to do everything. So it's not even like they're like testing Sonic. They're more so being like, do this, then do this. Okay, now you can do this. Okay, now you can do that. It's not really. It doesn't feel like they're
I feel like
testing
the
it.
ancients are like, if you want to activate this, you have to prove yourself, and we base the tests based on who you are, and that's the person who escapes cyberspace, and so it's based on what they know.
I mean, the idea of
That would make the most sense to me.
right, the idea of breaking out of cyberspace. I guess. Why?
Why was Sonic the only one who could do it?
Why-
Because all those characters have proven themselves of reaching an end goal.
Well, why did Sonic and his friends? Okay, was Sage the one who sucked them up? Right? Was she? Yeah. So she was the one who opened a portal and
Yes.
said, "I guess I gotta suck you guys up," which is funny because if she,
Explain.
what do you mean?
Okay, the way I would, because it is kind of confusing the way the story, because the story has Sage be a very vague like presence for most of the game until things get clearer. So it's kind of like it's kind of confusing at first to figure out what exactly was going on. But what I was able to understand was that Eggman goes to the island first, messes around with the technology. He ends up activating the all of the Guardians and stuff, and which ends up also inadvertently triggering the release of the End, which is stuck in cyberspace. So in order to prevent the End from escaping, Sage puts Eggman into cyberspace, and then also puts Knuckles, Amy, and Tails and Sonic once they end up like getting in range, so that you stay in cyberspace, then the End won't escape, because if the End escapes, that'll like
Yes.
destroy the world. So it's this thing of like, it's like she's trying to find a way to get Eggman out safely, because if she doesn't do that, then the end will also get out. And that's why she keeps telling Sonic not to do it, because then if he does succeed and save his friends, the end will also escape. So like that's this whole thing of like Sage is essentially like being like with the way her programming, like she has like that very like strict of, oh, I'm programmed to do this, so I'm gonna have to stick with it. But then by watching Sonic's kind of like irrational, like emotional reactions, she starts to understand, being like, oh, it's like, oh, like what are these feelings? Like what am I like? She ends up developing emotions while watching Sonic basically kind of just act on instinct. And then you see that in the end of being like, oh, like Sonic's friend, like Sonic gets corrupted, the end gets released, his friends use the power of friendship to save him, and then it's like, oh, Sonic and Eggman, you should work together to defeat the thing. And then she
cries. She has a tear at one point. She has a tear during a song.
Do you think Eggman gave her the option to cry? If this, then that, you cry?
No, I think
she merged with some of the data of the ancients in cyberspace and started getting human characteristics, is how they describe it.
Yeah, like they're...
So that's why she starts faltering and everything Stefan said about that.
Right, because I guess Sage prior to that was just a thing. And then he was like, "Oh, hey, here I'm foreshadowing in the prequel comic where nothing really happens. I don't really understand it." The Knuckles prequel animation is a lot more engaging, I think, than the comic, because the comic is just like, we fought a thing and found Amy. Let's go. Knuckles is like, here's me, I'm Knuckles, here's my pathos. I'm gonna do some fighting, and you're gonna wish that I was playable in this game, but I'm not. So maybe in Frontier.
And also here's a link from my island to these other islands.
Right, and
I don't imagine anyone in charge of Sonic social media or planning listens to this, but if you ever do, next time it'd be cool if the comic went over like a couple months before the game came out and had like a slow build of mystery, instead of feeling like 2 pages that didn't need to exist right before the game came out. Like there's such cool opportunity there, and I'm just like, well, okay,
because the prequel. Oh.
Yeah, or at this point, or at this point, bring up like what they did in the Archie days of like, oh, well, I'm about to say in the Archie days, but those were usually just kind of filler anyway. Like they did it once with Lost World by having an actual Lost World comic, but that also ended up just not really being anything. So it gets like, if you're like, if you gave them the room to actually do something of being like, oh, like have like a 4-issue like prequel comic that like leads into the events, is like, yeah, I think that would be like a smart thing to do. It's like kind of like what they did with the Sonic 2 movie, but like again, like expand it more so there's more substance that you could do.
Because we have all these characters at the end of this game being like, I'm going to go do my own thing. We're not going to see that shit in the next game. What's the real?
Well,
that'd be a cool place to develop it.
It would, but anyway. The comic. But I mean, the comic would then have to, because we're in a place, because right now IDW is doing its own thing, right? Like it's still dealing with Surge and Kit or whatever.
Yes.
Well, no, it doesn't have to take place in the IDW like mythos. It can be its own, like the Sonic 2 movie book. It just be like, oh, this is a like an in-game universe thing, and if you have Ian Flynn write it while he's writing the game, then it's like, oh, because like a lot of times with those things, it's like, oh, somebody is writing the comic while somebody else different is writing the game, so it's this weird dissonance of like, oh, one doesn't actually matter because they aren't really connected. But if you have Flynn writing the comic while after he wrote the game, which he probably is going to write the next game, then it's like, oh, he knows what he can, because it's like, oh, he'll know like, oh, I can tell this stuff because I know they aren't going to be in the game. So it's like he knows, like the writer knows more like about what he's doing. It's like we talk about with the Sonic 2 prequel of being like, oh, the writer of the novel wrote the comic around the novel because that's what he wrote, so he knew what to work around. Versus in the movie where it's like, oh, it doesn't really make sense for the movie.
I mean, I guess that would, because this isn't really about the game anymore. It's about IDW, but right, it is sort of a unique place. But I guess it also depends on how much of IDW is actually meant to be part of the greater Sonic the Hedgehog like game universe.
Iizuka says something.
Right. I mean,
he said that he would like for things here on forward to at least be convincingly enough to be the same canon.
Right. Which like at first I took that as, oh, it feels like they could all take place in one world, but they don't necessarily would have to.
Yes.
But with the comic and the game, like I think Prime is just going to be its own thing. It probably would be harder to shove it in.
Yeah.
But with the comic,
Yeah.
it's like you could have it so here's Frontiers and here's the aftermath of Frontiers, and you can show those separate adventures, and then they could get to a point where maybe they're reconnecting, and then the next game would happen, and like you could tell that story. But I don't know if they're going to, because also like you would I'm a couple issues behind in IDW, but I have to assume you would need a place where
How many
Frontiers
issues are there?
50 some at this point.
I'm 50 some behind.
Okay.
55.
55, right. I got up to
55.
50, but I
Single
haven't gone past 50 yet. And so I haven't read Scrapnik Island either. But it's like, I guess there would have to be a point in time where Frontiers could happen. And it feels like a lot of IDW is like, it's just one thing after the other. There doesn't seem to have been yet like, here's some rest and a game could happen. But they would have to hit that point if Frontiers is meant to be integrated. Otherwise, there will always be this slight
3 years.
disconnection.
But which is why I don't think there actually will, because I feel like that would becomes too limiting on both the games and the comic, because now the comic could be like, well, we have to find a way to fit Frontiers in this canon, even though it really doesn't fit. It's like I could see them eventually putting Sage in the comic, but like not tell this same story of being like, we have Sage, but like she has a different origin in the comic. I don't see the games ever actually referencing the events of the comic, because again, it's like that requires like the games you can easily like get access to, but it's like, a lot of people who play the games, not everybody has read like the comics, like a completely different medium. So somebody would have to like read all 50 of those issues plus the spin-offs in order to get like be like you wouldn't have to be like, you have to read all that to explain why Tangle and Whisper are here, or you could just be like, Tangle and Whisper are here. They don't have these, like, they're just versions of Tangle and Whisper.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't have to, like, they can show up and you don't need to give them an origin in the game. They can just exist, and Sonic's like, I know you. You know, it's like how...
They've already done that, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Sonic mentions Tangle. Like, Tangle is a known entity to him. But I'm just saying, like, in the overall thing, like, because the comic is something more immediate, it's more month to month, I don't think they would reintroduce Sage in a new way. I think if Sage shows up, it would be, hey, Frontiers happened. But
speaking of Frontiers, I feel like we're off in IDW territory.
Right, well, because it is...
I might have been confusing when I mentioned it. I just meant like the social media comics. I didn't mean like the IDW.
But they did say... They did mention...
because I was trying to say...
The social media team did say that the free comic book day story from this year, it was a prequel to the prequel of Frontiers. That's what they said.
Oh, right.
So, and...
Yeah, I forgot about
and so like that's just a story where... Yeah, it's a prequel to that's the one where Sonic and Tails debate the pronunciation of Hydro City, which is like, that shouldn't happen in universe because they've heard the word. They would know. But it's like, so that's like a weird prequel. I guess it has to be like a thematic prequel, because there's nothing actually in that story that connects to the events of Frontiers. But still, it's like,
Tails says the Japanese Romanji say...
Yes.
Go on.
Oh.
This is a complete like offshoot thing, but I think it's funny because that you say that, because I was recently in our Sonic 3 and Knuckles LP, you guys brought up like a joking thing of Sonic and Tails debating over the pronunciation of Hydrocity and Hydro City, and like you had because Tails is the one who says Hydro City, and it's like that's the same thing here. So, and that was like a year before the comic came out, so I'm like, Ian
Tails
watches us.
Said
confirmed.
It was Hydrocity, and Sonic said it was Hydro City, but that doesn't matter because I like the way Sonic controls in the game.
I think talking about the gameplay is not going to happen, David. Don't
man.
But I have so many things to talk about.
I think Sonic's control in the open world. I should point out, in the overworld, in the main portion of the game, is I think my favorite control of Sonic ever. Like, I feel like he's super smooth. He's really good. Like, you really feel it.
Good.
I like that when you jump. It's like the jump's kind of a bit weird, but whenever you land, it's like, oh, he stops
Yeah.
in a dime, so there isn't like a thing of like, oh, so you can do those pitch perfect, like those precise platforming like easily without worrying about slipping
Yeah.
and falling off. The boost is really good to do. His combat is really quick and like nimble. He's got a lot of like the variety of moves. It's like I think it's really fun. It's like you kind of be like, it's like really close with Adventure, but I think like because I love like the boost style, I think Frontiers puts it up over.
I had all of my things turned up to maximum in the settings, like, you know, turn speed, start speed, etc. I had everything turned up to maximum, and I still feel like he controlled perfectly.
It is.
Did you guys have him turned up to max, or what'd you do?
Yes, I did too. I think I had turn at medium because I didn't know what that meant, but I had my speed at max.
I left them at the way it starts when you start the game, except for the camera. I had it pulled out a bit more because I was like, I want to see just a little bit more of what's going on with Sonic. That's the only thing I really
I
changed.
also went default, but I turned up the camera speed because I can't deal with slow camera turns in games,
Me
especially
too.
Sonic.
Like I said, I turn everything up.
It's no SA1, but it is pretty
Right,
good. Probably my second favorite Sonic
And then when you
control-wise.
go into the levels, it's like, oh,
Oh, the
handle
cyberspace level.
it's so stiff. It's so stiff.
It is very stiff, but I won't lie. The more I've played the cyberspace levels,
Yes.
the more I have found that they are interesting to try to tackle quickly,
Yeah.
and that there's a lot of weird little nuances to the way it works here in this game that, like, I won't say are better or worse, but they do make it interesting and fun to try to see how quickly you can beat the levels, and I'm weirdly wrapping back around to appreciating them. I'm not going to sit here and say they're like really good or better than what we've had, but for what we've got here, it's like actually really fun to keep playing those stages again and try new things and try new little tricks. Like there's that homing attack boost trick that's going around right now. I don't know. I feel like this game is just everything that's like little things that I would pick apart and go like like we did for the reveal. Where I was
No,
like,
that
oh,
you
all these
did for the
rails.
reveal, and you, David, did for the reveal. Stefan and
Yeah,
I were
yeah,
like, this
we-
looks awesome.
Right.
No, we the collective
We.
Oh, that's
But
right.
yeah, things.
I said that too. You're right.
Yes, you did. But things that
the cyberspace for me is kind of like a thing of like, yeah, like I really don't like. Part of it is because I'm so used to Unleashed boost style that the way the boosting works is just kind of be like, it took me like a bit to get used to, and I really hate how the jumping works, how you just jump one space and then you lose completely all your momentum and you just kind of flung off wherever. It's like, that's annoying. But I did really, and also it really bugs me that it's just Generations, Green Hill, Chemical Plant, and Sky Sanctuary aesthetics again. It's like, I'm tired of that. I like the city aesthetic. It's like, I think that was like a nice one. I'd be like, I wanted to see more of those, like either take more of the themes from other games or just make completely new aesthetics. Like, I think that would have been better. But I agree. Like, I think the way the micro levels are designed, it's like you just speed
Athletic
through.
challenges.
They're designed in a way that's like, oh, they're good to just speed through. They're also good for collecting red ring. Like, I was terrified at collecting the red rings, but they're all like laid out in such a way that it's like, oh, they're easy to go through, and the levels are so short that you can just, oh, you miss one, just restart and go do it again. And it's like it feels like it was good to play through them, and I think the levels designs were done in such a way that it's like, oh, it complemented the quick and nimble of being like, hey, you can just jump in, jump out, keep doing it a couple times. And then also it took me until I think World 3 when I was like, wait a minute, this is fucking Skyrail! And then I went backwards and I realized, wait, were all of these just like, and then I was like, oh, yep, they were all copies of other levels. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. But then in retrospect, I ended up being like, oh, it's only Adventure 2, Unleashed, and Generations. So that was kind of disappointing because I'm like, oh, I thought there was more copied levels, but it's like it was just those. But it was just so weird being like seeing deep cuts from Unleashed, like the hard levels in Unleashed, and being like, I can't believe they took from these. It's like no one other than like me, who's just obsessed with Unleashed, is gonna like recognize like this, the Ice Cap DLC stage as one of them, being like, huh? But it's like, oh, like stuff like that. I wish they went a bit further with that, but I did enjoy how how they handled that.
Yeah. What if the aesthetics had been like oh, there it's all weird and alien, and then you find out that's what the Ancients' homeworld used to look like, and because Sonic is trying to
That'd be cool.
interface with their technology, they can't really create Green Hell, but they can make it the design look like their home, but the layout is green. That could have been they didn't do that.
I'll just say that if we see any of those 3 levels in the next game, there is now literally no more excuse.
You will.
It's happening.
Like if you, we are, but it's like at this point you can kind of be like thinking like, oh, it's because it's going through his memories, and oh, the game is about moving on from the past, so it's like, okay, fine, but if you literally like, the only way I think like. I'm fine with Green Hill coming back because it's Green Hill. It's the original. It's classic. It's like people don't like it, like keep coming back, but it's the original. It's fine. But Chemical Plant and Sky Sanctuary have gotten so much overuse at this point that it's like, do the other ones. Like, just give us the different one. Like, I'm fine with the nostalgia. Just give me new
That's the thing
nostalgia.
that bothers me about it is like it's kind of souring the entire idea, right? Like I'd love to go back and revisit old locations now and then. Like fuck what I would give to see Station Square again. But now there's like a weird stigma around the whole thing where even if they did, well, I would just log off and not deal with anyone complaining about it primarily. But I don't know. I like the idea. I just wish it wasn't the same fucking levels. Yeah. And you even look at the assets in this one, and it's quite a bit touched up for stuff like Sky Sanctuary. Like, those aren't the same assets, right? They couldn't be. So if you're going to put that much work in, why not just do something a little new? Like, I kind of like that the city stage, it looks like some other Sonic City stages, but it's not a Sonic City stage, right?
It's a little different.
Or even if they'd been like, we combined fucking things because this is this weird cyber memory network, like it's Green Hill and suddenly it's Chemical Plant, right? Like at least that'd be a little different.
Right.
Should we talk about the time scale in terms of production? Because like the main island was split into 3, etc. So like was time running out? Is that why we got the aesthetics that we got?
Maybe.
Yeah, I almost certainly believe that the generation that specifically taking the generation's aesthetics of those 3 games is because of like they're like, yeah, we didn't have time. Like the fact that there is just the one random city like scape, which is the one that Eggman is in the entire time, makes me feel like they wanted to create original like aesthetics like for more of them, but again they didn't have time, so they just took from generations and then retooled them. Like I feel that almost has to be
Eggman
the
said
case.
he saw things from Donpa Industries or whatever. Where?
Yes.
Where did he see them? I never saw them.
Donpa?
Yeah, did Don?
The Team Sonic Racing.
Yeah, remember Team Sonic
new
Racing,
character.
and he showed up, and he's
Oh,
like,
remember the game? I have not played.
yes. Well, because Eggman's like, I'm going to make in his egg memos, which are great. He's like, I'm going to reference everything that I possibly can, and because he also
That's right.
because he named dropped the Babylonians, the Black Arms.
I guess what I'd push back on and question, we do know he was there studying around the islands before he got trapped.
Right.
And
Yes.
there's like a clear point in those where he is trapped because he starts being like, fucking Knuckles. that might have been just when he was like looking through the system or whatever and wasn't
Yeah.
trapped yet.
No,
Maybe Sage told him.
I think he's trapped from the get-go when he's recording those.
No, he can't. Well, oh, you mean from when he starts
talks about-
recording?
When he's recording, and I think he's already trapped. There's a couple that I think are out of order because he's talking about like, oh, Sage is making jokes about Sonic and she's messing with him, and then later he's like, Sonic's on this island, I can't believe it. It's like, yeah, you've already established that because you've been talking about it.
No, you're right. The very
Yeah,
first
that's-
one, some force is keeping me from exiting cyberspace. God
like
damn it.
I think he records them all. I thought that maybe the first one would have been what we hear him say in his first cutscene when he's trapped in there. Like, oh, that would have been a neat, but I guess not. But yeah, I think he's stuck the whole time. So when he's in there looking around and he's like, oh, there's something from Donpa, man. It's like, oh, where? What's it look like? Can Sonic run on it? Oh, no, because he's got to go to Green Hill again. I'm sorry.
We see he's sending all of these to Qbot, and Qbot is ordering them incorrectly. So that's what's happening.
And then he's losing
Oh
them
man,
in
Big the Cat's in this
fishing
game.
world.
Can we talk about the fact that Big the Cat
Big-
is in this game?
Whoa,
Big,
whoa.
Big got sucked in, but we don't see him get sucked out at the end. So is he still trapped? What happened? What?
I'll suck him
I think
out.
he just walked in and went, ooh, and then left because Big the Cat is, of course, the most powerful character in the entire Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. So I think
That's
he was
right.
able to, he could just slide in and out easily. Like he looked for a fishing spot, he found it, he sat down.
And said, "Wow, there's fresh water and salt water in the same pond."
Right. Well, because it's
weird.
digitally separated. It's
It's cyberspace.
Yeah.
It can be literally
man,
anything.
you can catch all sorts of things. You can catch like really realistic fish, which I guess is part of the animal tier system because you've got, of course, your anthropomorphic beings like Sonic and Tails, and then you've got the animal
right.
friends like Flicky and Picky and Pocky and Rocky, and then you've got fish that you can just eat. And they're not as sentient as the other animals that you don't eat.
Have there ever been any anthropomorphized fish in Sonic? Because I can't think of any.
Mainline?
Outside of the comic. I know
Yes,
the comics have had
the comics have,
anthropomorphized
but I don't
Yeah.
think the
characters,
games
but, like,
have had any anthropomorphic
games have never.
fish. But you can catch a tire. Sonic looks so happy when he catches a
Sidon?
tire. What?
He just looks so happy when he gets sighted. And then the tire. What?
Yeah,
He
he
gets
looks.
the tire, but the tire's description says it's for a normal car, but it's way bigger than Sonic. It's like that's not for a normal car.
Not a normal car, and you can find cans. He's really excited about those cans. There's two different choppers, where one is big and one is small, and I was like, oh okay. You couldn't like throw in any other fish badnik that exists. There's more than one. Maybe you could have.
I love the tweet of like, oh, Sonic holding the poison dart frog, and then it shows like what the actual effects of a poison dart frog is, and like, put that away, Sonic.
No, this is an actual complaint I had.
Oh.
It'll sound like a joke. The last thing you can catch should have been Froggy. I don't know why it wasn't Froggy.
That makes
damn
way
it,
too
you're
much
right.
sense. And Froggy's not in this
It
game.
makes too much sense.
Froggy,
That's why it didn't happen.
right? He's mentioned. Big says Froggy likes those purple coins, which then makes me
Yeah.
wonder: how does he know they exist? What are these purple coins? But the purple coins.
How does he
I
know
kept
Froggy
waiting
likes
for
them?
Froggy to hop up or get caught. No, he's just mentioned. I'm like, man, I wanted the Fishopedia entry on Froggy so bad.
Oh, I guess that one's still classified.
And like it would have been thematically relevant because of the Chaos Zero connection, which connects to the other thing we somehow still haven't
Oh
mentioned.
right, we haven't talked about
God
the
damn
ancient.
it, Chris.
It's because we were talking about the game and how Sonic is fun when he's running, and the boost is fun,
Man, I have so many things to say about the game.
and the rail.
Yeah, fuck
right.
Sonic.
So are the white rails ancient rails, and then the darker rails are Eggman rails? Is that what we're doing? Is that?
it
There are
was
differences? Oh.
the purple. Well, see, I don't understand why the purple rails would be Eggman rails, because that would mean that they lead to platforms where the memory tokens just happen to be that Sonic just happens to need to release his friends who haven't gone there yet because they didn't go there until after Eggman was sucked in. Like, why would he just happen to build those rails leading to those platforms where the memory tokens happen to be to the places where the people who are going to get sucked in, he doesn't know who are going to be sucked in there yet.
I really wish I could reconcile this with we haven't mentioned it in publicly released videos, but the thing we've mentioned of like, oh, the game mechanics are just not real. But then Sonic in this game's
Yep.
like, oh, sometimes I go through
It's a-
goal rings.
or it's
I'm
a-
like, no,
it's a-
don't say it.
Right, and then
It's a
sometimes
spinning sign.
right, and then he's like, "Oh, hey, the map is being fed directly
Yeah,
into my
it's
head."
like that.
It's like, oh, all game mechanics are canon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an out of place thing that doesn't make any sense in like the way, especially with how story focused this is, to have that
means-
weird
Oh, it was
meta
so
line.
weird.
But it's just a funny thing. It's just I cracked up a lot when Sage is like, "What is your end goal?" And then he's just like, sometimes it's a
Spinning
sign, sometimes it's a ring. It's like it's just the silly pun of like the end goal things. Like that was what made it funny to me. Like the instead, like if he just simply said it like running around, like that would have been like but
In a
because it was
cutscene.
playing off of like Sage's character, I think that made me laugh.
I wanted to
Or even though it's like in a full cutscene, it's like,
But
this
then, like,
doesn't
does
make
that-
any
I wanted-
sense?
go ahead.
But does that make like every signpost canon? So like Does that mean Eggman posts Sonic's picture on the back of every signpost that he makes? Like, oh, if he defeats people, then he gets to turn it around. Or like in Generations, when Sonic turns it around, and then Sonic animates outside of the signpost, and like does his little thumbs up. Is that canon too? Like, I don't like it.
There's also the whole thing about like the memory tokens are those are like technically should be canon, because the whole thing is that Sonic needs to collect enough in order to feed into them, which then awakes them. Which I think that also fits into the whole like the cyberspace is affecting like the islands, because cyberspace is putting the memory tokens all over. So it's like you're getting like
that's why I think the purple rails are based off of what Sonic is. Like, oh, these are your challenges, Sonic.
Well, the memory tokens, they exist, I'm assuming, because of an earlier version of what the story was meant to be, and then when they changed the story, they don't make sense anymore. They don't make sense as to why.
Yeah, but we have to look at what the current story is, don't we?
Right. I mean, yeah, but the current story doesn't really explain why he needs to collect them or what they do for the characters.
What does the previous story say?
Well, the
amnesia stuff.
Yeah, like the early leaks where it was like Sonic has amnesia and his friends have amnesia, and he needs to collect these memory tokens to bring back their memories, which I assume was thrown out when someone went, oh, so 80% of this game, the characters aren't going to be in character because they won't know who anyone is, and that's a problem, especially when you have Ian Flynn who's like, I am going to overcorrect, or maybe not overcorrect, but he's like, I'm going to course correct and try to, align things so we have consistent Sonic and friends from this point forward. If 80% Sonic's like, what's my name? Who am I? I don't know. Well, I like chili dogs now. Like that's gonna, if Pontac and Graf wrote this game, they would have loved the fact that Sonic didn't know who he was, because they could write whatever they wanted.
They don't know who he is.
Every time I close my eyes, I just see chili dogs.
There is someone they did put some like digging into like the data, and they did find like dialogue of like Sonic going like, who am I? And so it feels like if there are some remnants of like maybe maybe one concept was that Sonic was going to start losing his own memory as he becomes more corrupted. Like maybe on that fourth island, as he's going through, maybe his dialogue is like, he's slowly losing his memory. It's like I think if you had to like take that idea, I think that would have been the smart way to do it. And maybe that was one of the ideas. But like then they're like, that's too much to throw in at the last moment. Right. Yeah, just let's not do it. Which is like,
they're focusing too much on the fact Sonic's dying, and then they're like, oh, let's not have the extra layer. But yeah, I think in the files it's connected to Island 4, so it was like a remnant of the old story that they were going to carry over into that moment, and then decided not to. I mean, because there are also a couple remnants of things that were supposed to be in this game that aren't. There, I think, is at least one line that was meant from Sage. I don't know if it's recorded or if it's simply like the text where Sonic was supposed to enter a ship of some sort. The implication, I think, being like, oh, you were going to find one of the ancient ships? Because I don't think it was the Eggman pods.
What about Eggman ships?
I mean, I know they're all over too, but I don't know. Whoever told me it was like, oh, the way it's written implies like, oh, Sonic, now we can finally enter one of those ships. Like, there was supposed to be something, and it didn't happen.
We do see them in that one cutscene on that fourth air quote island. So I guess that would have made sense if they'd found one and hijacked it, I guess.
Right. I mean, because there's definitely things that are missing from this game. Even like if we fast forward to the end, without really spoiling it, it's like Sonic is talking to someone at the very end that doesn't exist. Oh, who cares? We are spoiling. Okay, so Sonic.
We're in spoilers.
Sonic is like, oh, like he took your home away from them. He took your home away from you. You're gonna let him do that again? Like, he's talking to the ancients in that final, right before the final boss. The ancients aren't there. They're nowhere to be seen. He's flying with one Titan that has Sage in it. There are no ancients. Mm-hmm. And then the little info box says, oh, fight with the Titans, plural. There's only one up there. So I think the implication was that maybe originally even if Sage was up there, that the other Titans were going to be flying there, and who knows, maybe their souls were going to be in there, because their souls are everywhere. They're in all those Cocos, but something happened and something got changed. But Sonic is still talks to them like they're there, but they're not. They're not there.
And not to, I don't know if we want to tackle this right now, but maybe you could look at that and then extrapolate. Oh, maybe that's why the final boss is the way it is. Huh. It does feel a little weird, and we don't have a lot of time for a new fight because we just changed the story-esque, doesn't it?
Right. Oh.
Sega went ahead. Sega and Sonic Team were like, this game was actually a secret test in order to make you play Ikaruga.
Oh.
then they hit the gritty, and everyone went, "Oh no!" oh
But
no!
here's the thing. I kind of like. Okay. So.
Yeah.
All right, David, you're the one person on Earth who's like, "That was a good idea."
Okay.
I liked it. No, I liked it too.
Okay. So.
Yeah, I liked playing I don't know if I like it in the concept of that final boss, but I did like playing that Ikaruga section. I think was fun, but I don't know how I feel about like
they
the
do
section
technically
itself.
introduce
I'm
it
still
before the
mixed on
final boss. There are two smaller Ikaruga segments, right, where Sonic has
way
to hack
easier segments.
I know they're way easier.
Yeah.
But you learn the mechanics, like, oh, there's the white light and there's the dark light. And,
Sure you do.
oh, sort of. Like, it's there. Like, it tells you. And it's, because Sonic's hacking a computer, which is something he does, by shooting.
That's how you hack.
That is how you hack. And so you are introduced to it, and it's like, oh, right, here's hard mode. Traditionally in Sonic, let's say, okay, you think about Sonic Adventure 2, right? You learn how to play as Sonic and Shadow, and then there's the mech sections, and there's the treasure hunting, and it's like, okay, this is how the game works. And then you turn Super, and the mechanics are different, right?
Different.
Like Sonic 3 and Knuckles. You learn how to play as Sonic throughout, and even after getting the emeralds and turning into Super or
God
Hypersonic.
damn it, David.
Yeah, but then Doomsday Zone, oh, you're flying. The mechanics have changed. This is just a continuation of that idea of like, oh, you've learned how to do things, but now everything's changed. It's the final boss. Have fun, and like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay, because I was thinking, I was sitting in someone's stream and they were talking about the Titans and how the last Titan to them seems so much easier than the previous three. And I was like, oh, that's curious. I don't know if that's because, oh, you've just gotten better at the game, so that's why it feels easier, or if it could even be slightly story-based, right? Because when Sonic, throughout the game, he's freeing his friends, and he gets the cyber energy sucked into him. And he's like, hey, this is making me stronger. He's lying. Sonic is lying to his friends to make them not worry, because it's actually making him it's making him in pain. He's not doing well. His idle animations get worse throughout. But he has a little bit of that cyber energy corruption in him when he fights the first one, and then more in the second and more in the third. When he fights the fourth one, when he fights Supreme, when he fights that drip, he has no cyber energy in him at that point, because Amy, Tails, and Knuckles sucked it all back up and went back into cyberspace, and Sonic's at full strength again. So if that's full strength Sonic, who's Super Sonic, and he fights that fourth Titan, like he's at optimum Sonicness at that point. So it's like, yeah, maybe that's why it's a little bit easier, because this is proper Sonic. And then you go into space and you do the crazy thing, and you have weird existential dread shouting at you. And you do something completely different. And then you have a little bit of a cutscene. And look, I'm going to admit it. The shot with Supersonic flying, and the camera's pulled out, and there's just the streak of yellow, and it's like everything's very, very, very still and almost quiet. I got a little choked up seeing it.
It was like they watched that Star Wars movie, the new one, where they just silently zip through the big fucking Death Star or whatever the hell happened in that movie. That was the first thing I thought.
The one from last year, when they where they just when they hyperspeed right into the ship.
I didn't have the exact same response, but it was pretty fucking cool. I will agree.
Right. I was into it.
It was the moment. It was a moment shortly afterwards when the things are falling, like that part when the things are falling down and you got the guy looking off into the distance, like that choked me up, because I'm like, oh, yeah, because I got worried, because I'm like, man, I love Sage. I don't want anything bad to happen to Sage. And then I'm like, oh no,
That's
something
true.
bad happened to Sage. And then something bad didn't happen to Sage at the end, and I got happy. Yeah, I think Sage has done really well. I think she's got an amazing design. I love it's so weird, Eggman's portrayal in this game, because I'm so used to Ian Flynn in the comics writing Eggman. He writes him as an absolute insane psychopath. Like, Eggman is the evilest motherfucker around. So then to see him in this game as just this, like, especially in the Egg MMOs, as just kind of this calming, almost grandfather type thing, and just seeing like his interactions with Sage, of being like, oh, like, it's nice seeing like the thing of like, oh, I was so expecting like one potential option to be like, oh, say either Sage turns evil or Sage turns against Eggman because Eggman's being a dick to her. But it's like, no, Eggman's nice to her. Eggman like appreciates. Eggman respects pronouns.
So this is where I've been.
I was not expecting to get that, but it's like, hey.
I've been waiting to float this with you guys because somehow I haven't seen anyone draw much, like, no one stated explicitly that I've seen. We're seeing Eggman have his Gerald Robotnik moment in this game.
Yeah.
Yes.
A little slowly and not as obviously. But there's even some SA2 parallels to like, oh, the final thing to deal with is a giant spherical object. Oh, a character sacrifices themselves. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there.
And you kind of look at some of this stuff, it's like, oh man, if they do continue the story, is Eggman going to be like good in the next game? What happens if Sage like corrupts and Sonic has to like air quote kill Sage? Like, what does that do to Eggman? Like, there's so many cool ways they could take the story from here. I don't know if they'll take it, but I kind of want to see Sonic just scrub this Gerald Robotnik moment from Eggman and just make him full-on villain. I think that'd be a interesting way to take the story if they want to take it more seriously from now on.
And especially because you have that moment in the Egg memo where like he has like you essentially get like that interesting like I said, that Eggman has like an inferiority complex of the fact that, oh, like I never knew my cousin Maria, which is like, it kind of implies that, oh, that Gerald was like spent so much time with Maria that not only did Eggman like never like really, he never got to know both Gerald or Maria because of that kind of like their relationship, and he kind of feels like bitter about that. And the fact that you kind of like Sage kind of has some Maria-ish qualities in her of being like, oh, he has his own Maria that he like inadvertently created. So it's like just seeing like that relationship develop, and how like seeing a lot of like I wouldn't say unintentional, but like subtle like character development for him, and being like, it's like at this point, unless something happens to break Eggman, it would feel so weird to see him go back to tyrannical, angry dictator in the next game, because it feels much more nuanced. He feels much more like a mad scientist of being like, I want to create all these things and test all these like little, like he feels much more of like, oh, I want to like try and harness these powers and fight Sonic because he's annoying to me, because it's like, oh, I find it interesting as a doctor rather than someone who explicitly wants to take over the world just for the lulz. I do think that is overall a more interesting like direction to take Eggman.
Right, which I guess is why the wallpaper stories have to take place before Frontiers.
Can I share my theory for the next game?
Yes.
The next game, the end comes back because it mentions all these things about being infinite and undefeatable and stuff like that. Somehow the technology stuff is still around so Sage can interface with it. Sage gets corrupted again. Sonic has to kill it. Eggman is like, what the fuck? But until that point in the game, Eggman is working with the main cast, due to softening a little bit and the end being an actual threat. If that's the next game, I'll be pretty okay with that.
Although I wonder if that's going to be like, I wonder if that may be too much of, I wouldn't say too much of a ripoff, but it's like, it feels very Emerald to me.
And this game ripped off Shadow of the Colossus. Why not rip off an actual Sonic game?
Right. Off of Mewtwo.
Because when I mentioned about the whole thing of like, oh, either Sage getting corrupted, I was like thinking of like, oh, either Sage gets corrupted or Sage turns on Eggman, and I'm like, Emerald did both of those, so it's like that's why it was refreshing to see neither of them happen here. So I'm like, oh yeah, I wonder like if they do it correctly, and then like yeah, like have a third like it does feel like this is setting up like future stories. I mean, like yeah, like the end is not ending yet, and like we're gonna follow up the plot threads of this game. Like my idea was like either we're gonna do like we're either like Amy, Tails, and Knuckles are not gonna be in the next game, at least for most of it, and we're gonna follow new characters in like a new environment. Or we could potentially see, like, maybe if they want to actually bring back multiple characters, we have different environments with different characters. Like, we have an environment with Sonic, then you go to an environment with Tails, then an environment with Knuckles, and it's like, so you get, like, what people have been asking for is 3D, like, other Sonic characters again. Like, that's one of my predictions of what
Environment
what
1 is South Island, Environment 2 is West Side Island, Environment 3 is Angel Island.
Oh boy, Green Hill.
Oh yeah, it's happening.
See, I'll be fine. I'll be fine with Green Hill if they like retool it into like an open world. Like if
you go to Marble
did,
Zone
like,
after.
Can we really like? Does that mean we're doing another Ancients story if we're doing all these revisited themes again, like with cyberspace?
If we do it,
you know, I don't think you can. I don't think you can pull the. I think you can maybe reference the ancient stuff again, but I don't think you can.
Like
pull the
what I'm saying is,
cyberspace,
like we stick with the same format where it's like a big open world and some cyberspace levels. Does that mean the cyberspace levels like have to be tied to the story of the ancients, or are they going to be a different thing where it's like, oh, haha, it's a different thing where we access miniature levels?
Do we need the?
And also, they have the same theme exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that they just kind of drop the cyberspace levels entirely. Island 3, I think, was like kind of went. Island 3 was the one where they went, hey, we can do 2D in the open world. How about that? And so there's this bits where you can get locked in the 2D camera because they still want to do that. Which sometimes
it'd be nice if there was a. It'd be nice if
right. Sometimes it was.
No,
they
think
some.
I feel like they can't, as long as there is a button that's like, "Hey, I want to exit this 2D segment." I think it's fine.
Yeah, that's a good idea, right? Because otherwise, you kind of have to like go backwards or find a place to fall down a hole, so you can break out of
Super
it.
Paper Mario.
Right, like because sometimes in Island 3 it would get annoying if you got locked in and you couldn't figure out a way to get out easily, especially if you were aiming for something. But yeah,
not that big of a deal because it's just 10 seconds of playthrough and you're out of it.
Yeah, but you just want to go fast. You want to run. You want to go fast.
I think it's an issue with that island because the way, like, I think it's really easy to traverse the first two islands. I think those are designed very well. But the third island is designed in kind of like a cone shape where you have, it's like, not only is it in a cone shape, but there's also like 3 other distinct islands beside it. So it's not like one big
like
mass.
A different game
so you kind of have to figure out. So you have to like, it's a lot harder to kind of figure out, okay, you got to get from one side to one side. You can't just simply go in a straight line. You got to like do a little like turning. You got to find like the right rails to get over there. But then you also have like, oh, you're trying to go there and then you'll accidentally trip into a 2D section and then you're like, your direction will be kind of like lost. So you got to jump out of the 2D section and find a way to jump around the 2D section to just keep getting to your location. Like I thought it was a lot, like it was weirdly designed. And like there'll be some times where I just kind of like glitch where you can like glitch and like you boost in the correct way. You can enter the 2D section without being in 2D. So you can just boost through that area and it becomes like a lot easier.
I'll be quick about it, but I felt like Ares Island was the worst island because there are a bunch of walls and a bunch of mazes where it's like you cannot go up these walls, but in Island 3 it's like, hey, you can go up the walls, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want in Island 3 and it's really, really traversable in my opinion.
I didn't realize that until I watched Johnny's video that you can use the drop dash to get over the ice. I
didn't know about that, and I found it just fine.
Yeah, because I kept trying to go around the ice, and I keep slipping. So I'm like, okay, I gotta get down. I gotta go find another way around this.
I didn't know you could just float in the air while I played the game.
I think it's just, I think Island 3 is very easy because the platforms do appear and disappear, but the rails never do. The rails are always there, even in the distance. So it's really easy to know when you're supposed to go from island to island, or where you go to island to island. I feel like if it's very easy, it's no maze. You just look and you see the rails where you need to go. Whereas Island 2, it's like, haha, it's a maze. And you cannot go up the walls unless you do a very specific trick. Nah, I don't agree.
Yeah.
I feel like I played a different game.
No, you know what?
I mean, I feel like I don't think it was bad. Like, it wasn't like unplayable or anything. It's just of all the islands, that was the one I had the most. That was like the least favorite of them. Like, I know like people like Island 5 was basically just a retread. Like, I didn't realize that. Like, I could tell 4 was kind of a filler one because it literally is just you just do 5. You do like 4 or 5 platforming challenges. But I did like those. Like, I didn't mind that because I liked like the platforming challenges of being like, oh, you got to scale this giant this giant thing and like get to the top. And I thought all of them had like really cool, neat like platforming setup.
Yeah.
Like the design of them all. Like, I thought that was all well done, so I didn't mind like that 4 was just
Agreed.
kind of a short little like exercise. And then 5, I didn't really know until like people were saying that, oh, 5 was just like taken from Island 1, and now like when I look at it, I'm like, okay, yeah, now I can kind of see it, but I don't mind because again, like 1 I thought was like the size of it was fine, and I thought the size in 5 was fine. It was like, again, you could tell that it was slightly smaller than the other ones, but it's like, again, I didn't really mind. They put everything. A lot of it was mostly just because there was less to do because it was literally the end, so there wasn't like much else for you to do. But it's like I think it was all like set up really well.
I think it's neat. I think there isn't there a mod already because in the Switch version of the game there are earlier files when Islands 1, 4, and 5 were meant to all be connected, and you can actually play through it, which I haven't done yet. But you can play through it. Yeah, so there's a mod where you can play through mostly. And I think that would be interesting.
Oh, interesting, because I would like to know how you go from 1 to 4 to 5, because there's a big wall.
Yeah, I'm assuming that wall either you could walk on or it's not there. I don't know. I was watching a little bit of footage.
Shaped differently?
Right, because there's also like a couple different like challenges for unlocking the map and stuff, like things that.
Oh.
Yeah, so like it is an earlier version where there are definitely some differences and they're all linked together. I still don't understand why, like the reasoning behind breaking it up, because they could have just been like, oh, you can only explore this part of 1 until you beat 3, then go back to 1. Like that seems like an easy thing to do.
That should be fine.
Right. Unless the only thing I heard, which I think this person was just guessing, they haven't seen if there's actually something technical about it, is that maybe Island 1 was so big that it was causing some sort of issue on a technical level, especially in the Switch version, maybe. But I don't know. That, I think, is just someone making a guess, and that the real answer is probably 5 islands is more than 3.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Having 5 islands sounds better than 3, and ultimately it doesn't change the game that much. So I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Chris shared with us a little forum on Sonic Retro about like, hey, look at all these similarities between Island 1 and 4. And I was so like giddy about it because I was like, well, I mean, if you just look at the maps, they're the same island. Like, you don't have to look at all these different observations and camera angles. Like, you can just look at the maps. They're identical. They're identical.
Mm-hmm. There are the remnants of little set pieces in Island 4 that you can go to, but they don't have the springs, they don't have the objects, they don't have anything. But clearly they were originally
Especially
designed. Interesting. Oh, go on.
Oh,
No.
Sorry. I was going to say, just especially interesting because like there's places on Island 4 that were part of the reveal footage. Like those are the first things they showed off about the game.
Yeah.
And you just run by it and never have to go look at it.
Yeah.
Like they're not on the website anymore, but they were the website images of what the game would be like for a while.
Yeah, like something changed, something happened. I mean, I guess we know. I think there's been interviews where didn't Iizuka say Sega wanted this out last year, and I had to say no, it can't.
Yeah.
Like
He did.
Right, that's wild. Like, I don't even know what Frontiers would have looked like a year ago. Probably a lot worse, and we'd be sitting here going, I can't believe they fucking screwed us. God. But
It's garbage.
5 years?
No,
4
Chris would be
years, sorry.
4. Yeah.
before,
God,
No,
can't you
4
count?
years.
right, that extra year.
Sorry, I'm just so used
I guess
to it.
Sonic games should take 5 years, because then we'll be more happy with them than upset.
Well, no, because the first 1.5 years were
Yes.
them figuring out what to do.
Right. That.
Come on, get them.
Right. It was them going. We can't do forces again.
Frontiers took 3.5 years to make. Come on.
Okay.
They did say there was a build in 2019 they scrapped entirely. Yeah.
I would like that.
Or at least like a world they scrapped entirely.
I
Yeah.
want that. I want that prototype. I want to play. I want to go and play.
Maybe that's the big island.
Ooh.
And then also COVID made everything a lot slower than it
So-
probably would have. So that means the next Sonic game has to be out within
No,
2
no.
years. If it's more than
Give
2
it 3
years, it's like shit.
Let's not do 2
Izuka-
years.
Yeah.
Izuka said he wants more side content from third-party studios while Sonic fans wait for the next game. So I'm imagining like, oh, if this is the new format for the next 10 years, which Izuka said it is, like we're going to probably get 2 more installments of this and then some side games by third-party studios while we wait for those. So like, expect the next game in 3.5 years, guys.
I guess that would be similar
Makes sense to me.
Similar to what they did
Yeah.
back in the day, where it was like, okay, here's Heroes. Oh, here's Adventure 2, and Heroes is coming, but we're gonna, here's some advanced games, and then here's Battle, and there was a lot of Sonic content for a long time, and then it just sort of stopped.
Oops.
Yeah, it was. If you look in, I think it's in the Sonic Encyclopedia, and it has the calendar of like when all the games were released, and then it's up to 2019, and then it stopped, and then 2019, and then it stopped. Everything stops.
Yeah.
Then so you have like 3 years of pretty much nothing, and it's like okay now, if they can just fill in like if they find stuff,
And
to
then
fill
YouTube
in,
exploded
like,
with
time,
theories.
and it's like
Right. Well,
We don't
maybe
have
one
anything
day
else to do.
maybe one day we'll get that Evening Star Sonic game, right?
No.
Mania 2 is dead. It never was alive to begin with.
Do we want to wrap up the story? Do we want to wrap up the gameplay? Where do we want to go from here?
We've sort of been.
Well, first we didn't talk about how this game probably has the best bosses
Yes.
in Sonic.
Yes, it
besides
does. It
probably
has the
generation. Besides probably
It has
generations.
the best Super Sonic ever
But
too.
yes.
It's so good.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you
Yeah,
guys had
it,
also
it,
joined in on
it
the hype.
feels.
I didn't want to talk over me.
It feels. It's the most platinum because it just makes you feel so
Yeah.
powerful. Of just blasting through with the hard rock music playing.
Oh, not even the
and just
music.
Going
It's
overboard.
the fighting. It's look at Sonic 1, then look at SA2, and look at 06, and etc. and Generations, and blah blah blah. Like you look at all those boss fights, and it's like, I'm gonna run and jump. But then here it's like, oh, I have to dodge at the right time. I have to run at the right time. I have to attack at the right time. I have to use the right attack at the right time. This enemy's weak against this, but it's strong against this. And it's really good. And I really appreciate it. And every boss is different. And like running up Asura's arm, like the first 5 million times you do it, it's wrong. But then eventually you've learned how Sonic's physics work. And you're like, okay, I can run up the arm finally, and then attack the shoulder. It's really good. And then Super Sonic, he has combos, and he fights, and there are cutscenes during the fights, and then like Stefan said, the music complements it, and it's just this really big emotional experience with every single boss and every single guardian. It's you feel like you are facing an enemy instead of just some Eggman dressed up as Eggmobile differently and now I have to jump on him. It's really good. It's really good.
It's weird that they.
I'll say Squid sucks.
What? Squid's great.
Squid and the no, I hate because the way because it's basically just like a Sonic Dash boss, but the way that it's designed
Sonic Colors
is like
final boss.
when like it's Yeah, but also because the way that it moves around, the camera will get stuck in a way where it's like, oh, like the kid, like he'll shoot out things at you, but like the camera's moved in a way that you literally cannot see where
That must be the Switch version.
Where the like maybe because I had this constant problem where I'd be running, he'd do like that like animation where he's like twisting and twisting. He'll come out, he'll start shooting, but the camera hasn't like positioned itself back. So it's like I have like 1 second to react.
Did you record a clip of it?
Where the things
I
are
had
going to
this
be.
also for the record.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Occasionally there it would just be like, especially if you were like in the loop and the camera moved and you're like, oh, or even sometimes when you're right near the end and it shoots, so you don't even know where it's coming from. And if you're too close and you're right in front of it before you can homing attack it, you get hit. And you're like, oh god.
Well, I was on the Series X, and it never happened to me.
Oh, that's because you've got the next gen technology. That's why.
It's good, but you're on PC. You guys should have.
right.
You guys have 4K 60 option.
Right. My laptop is not the greatest, but I did have to put some of the settings
Well,
down.
Chris has 4K 60 option.
Chris.
1440p, let's go. The thing I didn't like about that boss is that half of it is a track you have to run on very slowly at its own
Yeah.
speed, even if you boost. And then there are certain times where it's like, okay, you're allowed to go up and attack it, even if you've caught up to it along the way here. I'm like, all right.
It's very.
Yeah, and again, like, and whenever you get hit, it doesn't feel like all the other, like in all the other bosses, it's like when I get hurt, it's like, oh, yeah, I felt like, oh, that was my fault. But when I got hurt in that guy, I'm like, yeah, it felt cheap, and that's why that one kind of stood out the most as the annoying. And then also the sandworm, because the sandworm just has that long 2-minute like quick time event. And it's just like, I just got to do this. But every other
Sandworm, you mean
boss, I
shark?
think, is designed very well
that what-
and very fun.
Yeah.
It's called
the
Shark.
sand shark
It's just
thing,
called
yeah.
Shark.
Shark.
Yes,
Yeah.
Stefan.
Right. Shark is a little.
The spectacle of that
did you
fight was
even
pretty.
play
Sorry, I
the game?
forgot.
I don't even know what Sonic is.
I enjoyed the spectacle of Shark the first time, at least. It was like, whoa, this is different. But then on the second
Shark is
playthrough, I'm
horrible.
like, yeah, I'm like, I'd like to beat this thing up now and go
Shark
ahead.
is the worst boss or guardian.
See, I didn't at first. Like it took me a moment because I've played so much Sonic. I always instinctively jump before homing attack. So like you
Oh,
go to
yes, me
Shark and
too,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, he's finally slowed down. Let me jump. Wait, he left. I didn't homing attack him. It took me way too long to go. Oh, I can just push the button. Oh no, this shouldn't have been 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
I don't know exactly how long it took, but I went through that like 3, 4, maybe even 5 times. That little quick time going left and right. It's just like,
If I can share what boss made me take 30 minutes due to qualifying circumstances, I played this game on hard because I heard you have to do the final boss on hard to see the real ending and stuff. So I was like, let's just see what the whole game's like on hard. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I had to scrap my entire first recording of the playthrough we were going to use.
What?
I'm now on the second one because I didn't put together. I was like, there's a parry. Every game with a parry has parry windows, and I could not get the parry down for the second boss, the Wyvern. And I was like, I'm getting my fucking ass handed to me here. I've been here for 16 whole minutes fighting this guy.
No, you
What
don't know the
fuck?
parry trick, do you?
I do now, but I didn't at the time because I was like, what fucking game has a parry and you just don't have to time? And it turns out the answer
I
is
know.
Sonic Frontiers. But I thought there was one, especially because there's the challenges that are like, hey, hit 3 parries in a minute. And I'm like, yo, I can do
you
that.
just stand there.
And then I was
No.
talking to Kevin the Golden Bolt, and he's like, oh, you can just hold the buttons down. I was like, what?
Yep.
He's like, yeah, you don't have to time it. I was like, oh.
No, it's
And now-
not a parry. It's a block. It's a block. It's not
Yeah.
a parry. It's
That's
a
the
block.
better way to
it's a
look
block.
at it.
Yeah,
If you do,
It's a block.
if you do
Yeah,
that
no,
in
no,
the
yeah,
air, you
'cause
just float, which
Yeah,
I
'cause
didn't
I-
realize the whole time I played that
Yeah,
game.
you just
You just
Yeah.
float in there, and like you can be up there for like 30, 40 seconds. Like you're up there a while, and I'm like, oh man, that would have
Yeah.
been so helpful at some point, but it's too late.
Yeah, the game. I did notice it because I know the game did say, because I was like looking at the thing. I know that the game did say like, oh yeah, like if you block. 'Cause I remember there was a part where it literally says that, oh, you don't have to time it. You can literally just block and it'll be fine. Because I specifically
Yeah.
remember reading that, and I was like, oh okay. It's
Kristen
like I guess
Reed.
that isn't as Yeah, I was like, oh, it isn't as interesting, but I was like, it isn't as interesting as it would have been to time it, but it's like, I think it's because the way the controls like are like mapped for that. It's like, I think it's fine. The weirdest was the game never at one point, as far as I could tell, never tells you how to do the Lightspeed dash. And it's
Yes,
like,
it
I
does.
literally had to like where does
In the
it,
training, in the training, it says LS or L or
at one of those. Okay, well, one of the random training.
The training
ones,
thing, it tells you how to
yeah,
do
'cause
it.
because I never got that.
I
so
agree. I'm
I
on
like
your
saw a
side
bunch
though,
of,
Steph.
like-
And this game does not teach you how to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw a couple Lightspeed dash rails, and I'm like, oh, I guess I got to get the Lightspeed dash later and come back to that. And then I think the next day, someone mess.
Well,
I forget if I read it or someone messaged me, and they were like, oh yeah, the Lightspeed dash is L3.
You went
And I'm
in
like,
blind
huh?
at this game. I looked at everything. I looked at everything that I could going into this. Besides story spoilers, I looked at everything. So like, I remember at one of the Japanese thingamabobs where they were like, here's the controller layout. I was like, oh, I'm gonna look at that. Oh, what Lightspeed dash is on the stick now? What the fuck? And then everyone else on everyone Sonic Discord was like, what the fuck? Lightspeed dash on the stick? What the hell? And it's actually not bad. It's actually pretty good. But everyone was like, what the hell?
It's fine. It's fine, and it also makes sense because every other button is filled with other different moves. So it's like, yeah, I get that they want to actually try to use all the buttons to do different moves instead of having them. I mean, some of the buttons already like share a couple moves, but it's like for the most part they try to split it up. This isn't a one button game.
Gameplay's dead. What would
No, it is.
Yuji Naka say?
Please free me from jail.
Do we know what his bond is? Could we?
I'm not close enough with him.
We're not gonna hashtag.
Yes, we
free-
are. We're gonna
Yeah,
hashtag
we already
free
did it once.
Yuji Naka.
Oh no!
We freed
Oh,
100
no.
P. We can do it again.
Come on, guys.
Do it again.
Tweet the hashtag. It is very sobering to play the second boss knowing there's no parry window because I chewed right through it and went, oh.
Oh, there you go. You did it. You did it great this time.
As a gamer, hey gamers.
Oh.
As a gamer, I like to figure out what my limits are. I like to say, hey, this is what the developer's telling me, but what else can I do? And so sometimes I'd be like, well, what if I just held it down? And so I figured out, oh, I don't have to parry. I just have to block. So
Speaking of limits, it's kind of weird that the game gives you enough experience points so you can get everything by the end of the second island. So by the end of the game, I had like 150 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh yeah, my original file that I saved over
What?
got at 100% of the game, and then I saved over on accident. I had like 600 something experience points left over.
Yeah.
Maybe in the DLC.
I will say,
They give you too many.
I do like that there are no movement options tied to the skill tree. You can start this game and basically do everything movement-wise you can at the end of the game, and I kind of like having that freedom right away.
Me too.
Honestly, if it was up to me, maybe the skill tree would just have you played the game, turn it off, and just have everything at the start option. But I like that I could just do whatever I wanted right away.
I'd like
I
a
hope
new
that
game
can-
plus.
You can.
TBH.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah, I just wish they had more. Like it felt like, because since this is Sega's first time really doing so they're like, okay, they weren't really sure exactly. Okay, how much do we want to give? How much do we want to give? Like the Ratchet and Clank style of like for this skill tree. They're like, let's do this. This looks fine. Didn't realize. Oh, we give you a lot. So it's like, again, like by the end, but for like the third and fifth island, I pretty much skipped like every random encounter because I'm like, oh, I don't need any.
Yeah.
Like I don't need, like there was no
Yeah.
reason to fight because I've already filled it up. And then it's like, and then you have with the I thought the way they handled like the attack and the defense, that was done fine. But then you have like the Coco's thing of like, oh, for some reason you got to do it all individually, and it's like, like I get what they were going for because they wanted you to be able to choose between speed, like they wanted you to be able to go back and forth between choosing ring and ring and speed. But I feel like there really could have been a better way.
There
to do
absolutely
that
could have been a
rather
better
than-
way.
Right.
How about not needing 3,000 Cocos to max out both of them?
3,000. That's 3,000 lost souls. 3,000 ancients that died horrible
Okay, hang
death. Oh, what?
Hold on, the math is wrong. Okay,
Okay.
so it's you start off at level 1
Uh-huh.
and you go to 99, so that's 98 times 2, and you need 15 Cocos per level, so that's 2,940.
2,940 Cocos, 2,940 lost souls who died horrible deaths tens of thousands of years ago fighting against the end.
David,
Yes.
are you saying you want to talk about the
all-
Cocos?
well, we're doing first really fast, and almost all of them you're gonna get from Big. Big has
I
them.
guarantee
is-
you will not find 2,940 Cocos on the islands. I have started a new file, and I've been going through it meticulously, and I have gotten just my speed up to maybe 40.
Oh, okay.
Just my speed.
Oh, you haven't been upgrading the rings.
No,
Okay. Well, then.
you don't need to though. I mean,
Not really.
You really don't need to upgrade your rings at all.
Right. I mean, I guess if you were like really bad at the supersonic fights, you might want to. But they're pretty.
And if you upgrade
Yeah. Oh.
if you upgrade your speed to 99, like you're just doubling your boost speed. You're not doubling your normal speed. You're not doubling your max ring boost speed. You're just doubling your max non.
Boost.
It's like the wall running speed specifically.
Right. Which I guess is
That
good
too.
because, like, it's nice that you can boost whenever you want, essentially. But there's a lot of times where I'm not boosting and I'm just running because I want to explore and kind of take my time and see what's
Yeah.
going on. Because something like
So it feels kind of pointless.
right, so like one of the things about the boost gameplay is, oh, you must always go fast all the time. If you were not going fast, you're doing something wrong.
What are you doing,
Right.
bro?
When I first got Unleashed and it was like, oh, there's this new mechanic, I was like, man, I don't know if I want to boost all the time. Maybe I just want to enjoy it because I didn't really know what was about to happen. And it was pretty quick where I went, oh, I need to boost. And it's nice to have it as an option because it's something I wanted back in 2008. I mean, I enjoy Unleashed. I enjoy the Werehog shock, but I know, like,
Funny how the collectibles at Unleashed are like, hey, don't boost to get them. Sorry, go on.
right. I do enjoy what Unleashed does, but Frontiers is kind of giving me the thing that I wished was in Unleashed in the first place. There are a lot of things about Frontiers that feels like, oh, this is the natural evolution of Sonic in a 3D sphere that, like, there should have been small chunks over the years, but instead we're doing it all at once. Whoops. And it's kind of a weird. It's weird, but I like it. So.
Yes.
Yes, Chris. Sounds
Yeah.
like you got something on your mind. What are you thinking about? You thinking about Sonic?
Who?
Yeah.
Sorry, I saw a Cheez-Its ad and I got distracted.
What?
What are you doing?
they're just so good. Okay. So do we want to talk about Chaos Zero's family?
Chaos
That was
Zero is a mutated Chow, Chris.
That was weird, right? Recontextualizing the Chow is diminutive
Aliens.
of fucking descendants of an
What, like,
alien
The
race.
Tamagotchi.
Yeah, so Chaos, he's described in the context of SA1 as a god of destruction, but it's like, no, he's not. He's a guy. He's a mutated thing from a mutation of a thing from space. So he's not
the
a
food.
god. He's just some guy.
Well, he's
Basically.
right. I mean, okay. Like I'm still kind of grappling with the idea of are the Chow the descendants of the ancients because it still feels
They
weird to
are.
me, but I guess
No, the
I'm
egg
getting
memos say they are.
right. I'm getting. I think I'm getting more okay with the idea because at first it's like, oh no, like a highly advanced alien race became tiny babies. They're all tiny babies. Oh god.
Right, that's the maybe
They're
I hope
marketable products.
They are. Well, I mean, like.
Chris said what he wants for the next Sonic game. I want them to explain how the fucking ancients became Chow.
Well, I mean, Eggman said that they that they degenerated. What was the wording he used? Because like degraded, right? Their DNA degraded over.
It's corroded to the point. Yeah.
Did you fall?
The DNA corroding is a
DNA
weird phrase
corroding,
also.
right? I mean, technically they haven't confirmed because when Eggman does this thing and is like, "Oh, the ancients are related to chaos, the god of destruction," he doesn't say anything about the Chow. I mean, if the Sonic Channel profile updates,
he
and
sort of
removes-
does.
Oh.
He says they evolved to being unrecognizable. He says something like that.
Right.
Let me read it specifically.
Right. Okay.
I had Sage run a diagnostic on the recorded genetic data of the ancients, and then against archives I have with me, whatever that means, they're relatives of chaos, the god of destruction.
That's only
After
one of
countless
them.
years, their DNA corroded to the point they were completely transformed into a new species. Some kind of radiation affected them for eons, making them
Radiation?
unrecognizable, except to a genius like me.
Right.
Radiation. So what, the sun transformed them into Chow? What do they mean by radiation?
I mean, I guess the radiation would be like emerald radiation, right? But at the same time, okay.
What?
Yeah. Well,
The Master Emerald.
I mean, they didn't know the Master Emerald before then. Maybe the Master Emerald was like, "Hey, who are you guys? Get away from me!"
Hey, turn into Chow. Cut it out.
Look at it.
Stop being
I'm gonna
ancients.
corrupt you.
Right. Radiate. Oh,
Fuck
right.
you,
Of course.
unancients.
I would send a text message. The radiation would be from the End, who tried to kill them with big lasers. Right?
Oh, yeah.
That would be the thing.
Maybe.
Well, I'm
No, because they contained it, and then they were like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
I mean-
I guess we'll slowly mutate into
they can
children."
I mean, they contained it, but like that's after their entire, outpost was just scorned from the earth. Like you saw, because in the flashbacks you're like, oh, they're all dying, and these things like it's being zapped. So even though the islands themselves exist and certain remains of their civilization exist, like the End cut deep into where they were living. So like that, that'd be like, yeah, because if it was
Make the nuclear bomb analogy.
right,
to it.
because if it was the emeralds, then it's like, why is Knuckles okay? Why is Sonic okay? Like, there's a lot of weird questions.
Because they're the master of chaos energy, obviously.
I mean, I guess it makes more sense to me if it is
They
the
are-
End, because then it's like, oh,
They are alien. Like, they are more malleable, I guess. Like, it could be the emeralds,
right.
but
I mean, it could also be like maybe
well,
Earth just isn't a hospitable place for them to begin with.
that's where I was gonna go.
Oh.
That's where I was gonna go. That's my theory. You say it first,
Oh, well, yeah.
Way to
and
go,
then I'll
David.
say, well, actually,
Well, actually, right. Well, because like they were living on a planet, they were having a good time. They had the emeralds that powered their civilization.
no, they weren't.
Well, they had a good
were
time
suffering.
before. I'm talking about before. They were
Oh, on Alien World.
they were having a good time on Alien World, right? They're like, we are an advanced civilization of water. Isn't this great?
Look at us go.
Somehow we're building giant stone structures. Anyway.
Anyway.
Right, and then a planetoid flew by and said, "Hey, what if I like killed all of you guys? That'd be great, right? Because that would bring order to chaos." And they went, "I don't think that's a good idea because then we'd all be dead." And the planetoid was like, "No, this will be great. This will be great. Watch this." And then,
Check this shit out.
and
Watch
so they
this.
shot the. And it's like, oh, he's like, that was great, right? Hey, wait, where you guys going?
It's fun to play through the game a second time and see those lasers destroy all their buildings and be like, that's the one that killed me when I didn't know what was happening in that final boss. Fuck that laser.
That's
I can relate to the
those were
ancients
the
right
layers
now.
when I was like pew pew pew. but then what
Right.
happened, David?
Oh, right. So they arrived on Earth. Wait,
And it was unhospitable.
It was
for them.
unhospitable for right. So maybe they had
And
a hard.
so they had to at some point say, we have to become something else in order to survive here, otherwise we will be dead.
so they all died.
And so they sacrificed a part of themselves, being like, hey, we won't remember who we are, but at least we will still be alive. And they transform into the Chow. And it's kind of sad.
I mean, okay, because
like, it's still them, but at the same time, it's not.
It's very. I don't. it's still,
I think it's cool.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I can see it from either way.
When you have a
even
chow,
the Coco kind of have
when you
very
have a
chow.
like when you have a chow and you raise it, it doesn't die. It just starts over. It builds an egg around itself and it starts over. And it's like, oh shit, you are a forever child. You are going to live forever. You're never going to die, but you're also never going to grow up and realize everything there is to know about life, which is like a trait in a way.
Right. Immortal
Like,
babies.
You're a baby forever. You're never going to know what it is to be alive, but you're always going to be alive, which is really fucking cool and also depressing. I think that's cool.
If I mean, because if Eggman's saying like, oh, they became something unrecognizable, Chaos isn't that unrecognizable. Like, he kind of looks like them.
Yeah.
I mean, he's shorter. His brain is smaller.
No.
His brain is
The Chow are
exception to the rule.
Yeah,
the Chow are unrecognizable to the ancients, and Chaos is a mutated Chow. Like, those are facts, right?
Yeah,
right.
that's
The
right.
fact,
Chaos is a mutated Chow, right?
right? It's been
Master
established
Emerald.
for a long time that Chaos is a mutated Chow, and then Eggman says
Yeah.
Chaos is related to the ancients. So if they aren't retconning the bit that he's a mutated Chow, then that means
So what we know-
the ancients became Chow, and that somehow Chaos mutated back into something closer to the ancients, but not quite.
Right, that's just genes turning on. Like, for a long time, that gene was turned off, and for some reason it got turned back on. Like, that's just... We experience that IRL.
Right. Chaos, he doesn't talk. He's got nothing to say. He
Yeah,
likes
he's
to
kind of
roar.
dumb.
He likes to roar. Like, does that mean if the ancients used the Chaos Emeralds, they would have became perfect Chaos? No, probably not.
Maybe.
I don't-
Potentially.
Who knows?
I think
There's
probably.
there's some
Yeah.
weird things to unpack, and it's like, I think this. I am into the idea of the ancients existing. I know there's some weird questions that you can bring up about the Chaos Emeralds, and I know you've been thinking about it, Steven. I know I've been thinking about it, but like, I think overall I do enjoy the layers of lore that they have added into the Sonic the Hedgehog universe, and the way that there's been connections made with the previous games. Like, I am all in on what they are doing because the characters feel more real than they have in ages. It's
Yes.
connecting. It's like one big world, one big universe. And man, the ancients, they died so many times. Do you hear that? Like, one of the first things you hear in this game is screaming. Like, that's intense.
that's
Yeah.
one of my minor nitpicks. They don't subtitle that. I feel like if you relied on subtitles, that's like actually quite an interesting thing that is not conveyed.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's also no subtitles for what Sage is saying in that moment. It's just Eggman who gets
If you rely on
right.
subtitles, you're not watching this video.
If you are, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, the YouTube auto-generated subtitles, hopefully, have not led you too astray. Oh, boy. But yeah, I mean, right. So that's why I'm like, I you know, like, in some ways I can be okay with the idea of the Chow being the end result of what the ancients were, but another time, in another way, it's like, it's so weird and so sad. I don't know if I like it. I'm just going back and forth. Because I mean, Chow are just
I don't know if you like it.
what?
You don't know if you like it.
Right. I'm not sure how I feel about it. It is one of the things, like, that is sticking. That's one of the things I'm stuck on more than even the idea of the emeralds coming from space, because the emeralds coming from space, they're still not telling me who made the emeralds or exactly where they came from, because it's just, oh, they were on another planet tens of thousands of years ago,
Yeah.
and then were brought to Earth. So it's like, oh, yeah.
We were teased beforehand, like, oh, we're going to get the Chaos Emerald's origin story. And it's like, haha, no, you didn't.
Right, which I'm glad we didn't, because I
Yeah,
like
me too.
the
Thank God.
mystery of, oh, what is the exact origin of the emeralds? The chaos.
But don't lie to me.
Right, no, it's just, oh, there's another added layer, and we've gotten plenty of added layers about the emeralds over the years. Adventure gave us an added layer, Unleashed gave us another layer on top of that. Frontiers is one more layer, but it's not the top layer. There's so much more going on, and we haven't gotten there yet. And in a way, I hope maybe we never do. I'm glad it wasn't like, okay, so there was this guy, and this guy's name was Joe, and he was sitting in his garage, and he was just digging in the ground, and he found a rock. He's like, this rock is cool, so he carved it, and then he sneezed into it. When he sneezed, it's because he was the first guy ever named Joe. It was a magic sneeze, and it gave the power to the Chaos Emeralds. You're like, yeah, here we go.
Hang on, I'm liking this.
Right, and
What I especially like about it, as we've seen with this stuff, we thought we pretty solidly knew what was up with Chao and Chaos. They can always just write around this shit later and be like, actually, this other thing also happened. So
Yeah, sure.
even though like Sage definitively says like, oh, their origin is in space, we don't know. That's all the ancients knew. Who knows what was before that? So I'm not letting myself get too bothered by any of the weird stuff here. I'm just like, fuck it,
sometimes.
whatever.
I did think it's funny that this year we got 2 different Sonic medias that gave a further explanation of the Chaos Emeralds, and both they were from space and came down to Earth because the Master Emerald was on Earth. Because the second Sonic movie also did
the
this.
second Sonic movie, they took the Chaos Emeralds from space, but then formed them into the Master Emerald.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the Master.
True,
yeah.
Yeah, it didn't exist. The echidnas.
So the Master
made
Emerald
the
was
Master
from
Emerald.
Earth,
Yeah.
but they didn't attract the Chaos Emeralds to it.
Yeah, it originated. Yeah, it's obviously still different, but it's like technically in both cases the Master
from
Emerald
Earth,
originated on Earth. Yeah, and the Chaos Emeralds were from space. Like obviously the whole like the little bits and pieces, their connection, they're different. But I think it's funny that those 2 points ended up being the same. And I wonder especially because we know that they've said that that they took some inspiration from the Sonic movie, like
This is
especially
true.
with like Sonic's like turning fat, like Sonic turning like his like electricity when he gets all the rings, or like when Sonic's he's fighting the guy in the sumo ring, and he literally does the move that he does at the end of the first movie. I almost wonder if it's like a thing of like people like they read like they got to read like the Sonic the Sonic 2 script, and they were like, oh, that's what you're doing with the Chaos Emeralds? Maybe we should do that too. Or they just accidentally both came
wait a
up with
minute.
the
Well, they're
same
not
thing.
the same, because in the movie they literally say we took all the Chaos Emeralds and formed them into the Master Emerald.
I don't mean literally. I mean in the sense that the Chaos Emeralds are from space. Like I think,
I guess they're
just
from
that
space
general
because
idea.
everyone's from space.
Like-
Wait, in the movie,
It's the thing with Sonic. It's always fucking
right, in
aliens.
Sonic, in the Sonic 2 movie though, the Master Emerald isn't forged on Earth, right? Like they hide it on Earth. That's not where they come. No,
Yeah, you're right.
because
they hide it on
they
Earth.
hide it on Earth because the echidnas are not on Earth. They make the Master
Yeah.
Emerald elsewhere. The owls hide it on Earth.
Stefan,
That's what's right.
God
All of
damn
that
it,
happened in
Stefan.
space.
I'm canceling you.
Now, I'm sure the movies did maybe pressure them to be like, maybe we should actually address some.
Well,
of this
I think
stuff,
they were
huh?
told. There was an interview where Pat Casey did say, "Oh, we just wanted the Master Emerald, and Sonic Team demanded that the Chaos Emeralds also exist." So they had to come up with an explanation because they didn't want to have 7 gemstones. So shoving them in the Master Emerald, and it's 1, but there's technically 7 in there. So it was like a compromise. So I guess,
Which honestly, I agree with. That's good movie wise. That's a great idea.
right. Their big thing was we don't want people to think we're copying the Avengers, so, which everyone would have.
Okay, fair.
Who's not paying attention? But I mean, it also makes
Yeah.
the storytelling more focused if it's just the one thing, which I get.
How do
But,
we get back? How do we get back to Frontiers?
well, you see, there's that right when Sonic's super fast, he does the glow. Like in the movie, and then when he goes super fast, he goes,
That's
hey,
right, he
hey,
does.
oh, this game, Sonic says let's do it to it. That means Sad AM is canon?
Oh, but David, did you know that in Sonic Racing on Apple Arcade, Sonic's description is he's the fastest thing alive?
Oh, I did not do that
Oh.
because I don't have Apple Arcade. I couldn't, I never subscribed for a free month.
Well, and now I have 1 free month plus 3 more free months. If you sign up to Apple Arcade, you might also get the same deal as me, but I can't guarantee it.
Whoa, is there a code in the description?
No,
Go Go sign up to Apple Arcade Plus and play the new games, and not Choo Choo Rocket Universe because it's literally gone forever and you can't access
Which
it.
is great.
Oh, man.
I'm
Fuck
so
that.
glad that one of the selling points
Great.
is gone.
Sonic Racing seems okay.
It's not.
Sonic Frontier seems more okay.
Sonic
It
Frontiers
is.
feels like a proper game. Sonic Racing on Apple Arcade, I guess, is more like you have 5 minutes. I think is that the idea?
It is an online-only
learn-
game.
Oh wow.
You can learn some game making stuff if you make this game. Okay, bye.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have things to say. I have bullet points that I wrote down.
ooh, let's go through them.
I divided my thoughts up into like,
Mm-hmm.
don't like, and that was weird.
I like the third one.
I feel like I did this with a previous video. Didn't I?
I mean, it sounds
I-
familiar.
Let's hear him, Steven.
The second Sonic movie video, you did this.
I feel like the control mapping is great. Thank you so much for making this control scheme as little as contextual as possible. I think the only context in this game is like between punching or home attacking, which really isn't that big of a deal. I think that's great. Use every button on the controller, the complete opposite of the Yuji Naka thingamabob. It's really good. Does anyone have thoughts on that?
This game
Okay.
made me realize I never disliked homing attack being on a different button. It just solidified that I don't like 4 different actions being on the same button.
Exactly. I don't like contextual buttons. And when Sonic Unleashed put homing attack on a different button, it was like, well, that's weird because pressing A twice does not double jump. But then we went to colors. And it's like, hey, double jump is also homing attack. And it's like, well, you're not. And, and this game is like, no. We have double jump on A press twice and then homing attack on B if we're talking about
Whichever control. Yeah.
whichever controller, sure.
To circle
X.
back in with my that's weird about the thing you like. The one thing from the recent 3D games I wish this had not brung back is you could only homing attack what's in literal view of the screen, as opposed to being able to homing attack enemies that you know are out of the screen, but can't because the game doesn't let you.
That's
I
because
hope
you're
that is-
an SA1 boy.
Well, gosh dang it! I know what's there. Let me hit it. Okay, please continue.
That's been a modern Sonic thing though. Like
Yeah. Ever since that one colors room in Aquarium Park, it has bothered me. And I the fact that I know it probably says more about me than the game design choice. But yes.
skill tree, way better than the Werehog. I remember the Werehog just being like a, hey, you unlocked a new move, and there are like 300 million moves you can do. And it's like, oh, I guess I should memorize all these different moves. But Frontiers is like, no, there's 11. I guess the number. There's 11 instead of 33 million.
Yes.
Island music theme progresses with every emerald you get. So like there are like 7 different themes for each island, which is amazing, and they all get more complex as you get more stuff, which is really cool.
Oh, the music in this
I
game.
can't wait to listen to the soundtrack on December 7th.
The music in this game is good, pretty much straight through. There's very little where I'm like, yeah, like it's all good. I think.
Probably
it's
immediately
the
one
biggest-
of the best soundtracks in the history. Yeah.
And it's weird because you think like, quality versus quantity, but no, this one is both. It's the biggest and one of the best soundtracks.
Especially because you got all that, and you got all that variety within the music, because you have like the overworld theme, which is very atmospheric in a way that it's like, it's nice to listen to, but it doesn't obstruct anything. It's very mysterious and alluring. And then you got like there's like some kind of like you have like they have the very techno cyberspace music that are very like they're very like upbeat. Then you got the hard rock of the Supersonic boss fights. And then you got all of and then those songs, and then the other what do you call it? The vocal themes, which all each have their own kind of unique appeal to it.
Yeah, it's this soundtrack has so many different genres in it, and a lot of different Sonic games did that too, like SA2, etc. But this one attaches it more so to the mood of what is happening instead of the character you are playing as, which is really cool in its own way. What did I have? Oh, the next thing I have written is the overworld is really good at leading you to new things. All the miniature levels, or I guess athletic challenges, they sort of lead you into the next challenge. So you don't even really have to look at the map. You can just keep going and going and going, which I think is really cool.
I agree.
I like that Amy is the first friend that we find instead of Tails or Knuckles. And I really, really like that Amy isn't just like, I'm gonna marry you. I'm obsessed with you. I'm your biggest fan. She's like the most rounded she has ever been in any game. She says, "Oh, I like love. I'm not obsessed with loving you. I like love in general. I like these Cocos represented, these ancients who were in love, and I want to spread that love to everyone." And Sonic says, "Yeah, you do that."
So anyway, about death.
Man, remember when they died in front of us? You better tell everyone they were in love before they died. Okay, bye, Amy.
No, because Sonic also runs up to her and says, "Hey, you still thinking about that Coco?" And she's like, "Yeah, but I'm also thinking about some other things, like love."
I was reading the Pontiac and Graf script. I'm sorry.
I feel like she's the most rounded she's ever been, and it's like that. Good job, Ian, or good job, Sega. I don't know, because Sega said, "Here are the bullet points I want you to do," and then Ian filled in the gaps, right? Like that's what he said in his interview.
I feel it does feel like the characterization of Amy does very much feel like Ian Flynn, especially the way he's characterized her in the comics, and made her much more of like that independent character. Like he's definitely hasn't leaned into the love aspect as much as he does here, but it does fit very well. And again, I feel like the idea is that Sega probably gave him okay, this is the idea that we have about the history of the they probably had the ancients, Sage, that they want Tails, Knuckles, Amy. They had those bullet points, while the character interaction was purely from his his idea. That's what it feels the most to me, what happened.
Think about Amy as a real person. She does tarot cards, and she's probably a spiritual person, and she's obsessed with love, and she's obsessed with positivity and looking at the silver lining. And I think that was a really cool way of looking at her, instead of just being, "Oh, I'm in love with you," where it's more like, "I'm in love with love and I want to spread love," which I think was a way cooler twist on her character. This is a weird one. I like that the goal rings and cyber stages are fractal.
Why not?
I also like that.
I like it.
It's a neat twist on the gold ring and the ring thing, right?
Something different that he goes to. And I guess it's it's a neat little portal. It's taking you back to the real world. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I love the way the characters talk to each other. They all feel very natural. I think we already talked about that, but what do you have to say?
Yeah, just to close it out, I guess. I understand pretty much every feeling anyone has on this game. It's very divisive. I hear positive and negative, and I'm like, yeah, I can understand that. I've seen people hate the characterization and the voice direction, and that's the one thing where I'm like, oh, no. This is how I want it to be going forward, baseline. I don't get not... I don't know. They feel like actual characters for the first time in a long time.
They feel like people.
Yeah, I actually want to spend time with them and hear what they're going to say and how they'll interact with each other. That's the one thing where people have been like, oh, this is the worst voice acting in this series I've seen put onto the internet. And I'm like, or I've seen that opinion put onto the internet specifically. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. I'm glad I don't feel the way you do, because I like this.
It's because of it's because of like I mentioned earlier, the melodramatic tone of they're so used to Sonic being very loud and in your face, that having it be so somber and so introspective. It's like, wait, we're not used to this. And it's like, yeah, like the
Yeah.
performance is like, yeah, like the Roger almost sounds nothing like him, like at the beginning. Like you get used to it more over on, but like when you first hear him, it's like, yeah, that doesn't sound like his Sonic at all. It's like how deep
I have
it
things
is.
to say about that. There are moments where Sonic, where Roger sounds like actual regular Sonic, like Forces, etc. But then there are times where he sounds lower. But then there's this in between where it sounds like he recorded in his normal Sonic voice, but they pitched it lower. So there's like 3 different things where it's like it's him talking as his regular Sonic, but then he does a lower pitch as well in his actual voice through different lines. And then at some point, someone were like, hey, these lines sound like the other Sonic. They should sound lower, so let's pitch them down virtually. Did anybody else pick up on that?
I
just
Just
thought it was
me?
the cyberspace corrupting him, bro.
No, there are literal moments where it's like where I listen back to it and it's like, this sounds like when they pitched down the guy who voices, or pitched up the guy who voices Steven in Steven Universe. Like, that's not his natural voice. They pitched him up to make it sound more consistent to when his voice was higher.
I
But
guess
in reverse.
Credit to them. I didn't really realize it.
I should make a video where it's just like, these are the regular voice lines, these are the lower voice lines, and then these are the pitch down voice lines.
Yeah, I'm sure if I like went listening for it, I'd probably start to hear it. But for me, I was just like, oh, he is like arranged now, cool. And then I didn't really think about it much more than that.
No, they're different.
But my favorite thing Sonic does in this entire game is not even a voiced line, but it's when Knuckles is just kind of somberly on top of that structure, just thinking about life and stuff for real. Right. And Sonic, like, he's like about to try and crack some joke. He's about to try and be Sonic, and then he catches himself and he's like, no, it's not the time. And he just kind of sits with Knuckles for a second before he talks. I'm like, oh,
It's really neat.
that's the good
great.
shit. That's the good shit, man. Oh,
It was subtle.
that's all I had to say.
It was subtle.
Real subtle
In
storytelling.
character. Media res.
Man,
It does start in
I guess-
media res.
this game isn't in media res. It just
Sometimes,
Well, I guess-
sometimes you can say more by saying nothing. Who would have thought?
Right.
Right? No, Sonic needs to just never shut up. He should have been like, man, Knuckles, I know it sucks that everyone you're ever related to died, but in some ways, everyone we've related to dies at some point. And then he does a spin dash.
I'm gonna die. You're gonna die.
It is it is
no.
very different.
I like.
It's funnier in like when you look at it in comparison to Forces, because like Forces has this giant giant ensemble cast of like, oh, these are like a whole bunch of the Sonic characters, but they all like feel very flat in their interaction. Like it's like you could just pick out like what other like any characters in any position. It's like nobody's really saying anything that like fit. Like every dialogue could be replaced with a different person and like it would all be fun. Like you could do whatever. But here all of the writing is specifically fit for every character, and you like every character feels alive, and like their back and forth between Sonic actually feels earned.
Yeah.
I hope to get used to that again, but right now it's a real weird new feeling.
Right. No, it is nice. It is.
I want to
Yeah,
see
it's a
that,
little
like,
bit.
just imagine this type of interaction, but with Shadow, and like allowed to like being allowed to give Shadow this amount of depth that he hasn't been allowed for a while. It's like that would be just given the letting the Chaotix have some like more introspection about like what's going on with them. It's like, yeah, there's so much potential with like with this writing style, with the entire cast.
Yeah. Steven, what's next on your list?
Next on my list, Sonic's big hitbox makes collecting things easier. I really appreciated that, and that's
Yes.
not a joke. I think that's a legitimate like game design thing. It especially complements how horrible the Cocos are. They blend into the environment so too good, way too good.
Yeah.
The environments are gray. The Cocos are gray. I don't see them. And I'm running around and I hear bring, and I hear a little nah. It's like, oh, I guess I got one.
I guess I picked that one.
The next thing I have on here is I like Sonic's textures and model a lot. I know that there was a lot of hashtag discourse about short spine Sonic, short legs, short arms. Sonic Forces model, I think he's fine. It looks like he's not gonna topple over due to the weight of his own head. But I like the main point I want to get across is not even his model, is his textures. Like, he actually sort of has like a furry look to him now, because like even in the pre-rendered cutscenes for this game, which aren't for this game but are for the commercials for this game, just like every other game since 2010, he looks rubber. Modern Sonic looks rubber. He has a rubbery look to him. But in this game, he finally looks like he's furry. Chris just posted an image. Chris, put it on the screen because you're editing. He looks.
Maybe I'll remember.
He looks furry. And it looks nice. It's the way that the light bounces off of him. He has a sheen to him that isn't plastic, and it's really nice.
Looks like those Funko Pops with the little texture on them. Not to ruin it for you.
I wrote the game loads very fast on Series X. That's just my own personal experience.
The loading's fast on Switch too.
Really?
Like, I believe well, because you have the training mode, so it literally has a timer of how long, and then you see okay, it's loading, you press the button. I believe Into Cyberspace took 5 seconds, and Out of Cyberspace to the main hub, I think took 10-15 seconds max.
That's not bad. How long did it take to go from island to island?
I think I only actually went from island to island once, so I completely forget. It probably was, again, about 10-15 seconds.
That's not bad. On Series X, going from island to cyberspace takes a few seconds, and vice versa. Going from island to island takes 6 seconds. And if you want to fast travel, it's instant. It's really, really cool. Yeah. The next thing I wrote is the last island really tests your skills, which I really appreciated. The athletic challenges, they throw curveballs at you. It's really nice. It's hey, we're gonna throw a spring in the opposite direction of where you think it's gonna go. You have to react to it. Can you react in time? And the answer is yes, because I've been paying attention, and it was really cool. Did you have the same experience?
Yes, I really liked those platforming challenges on the 4th island. Yeah, I think those were really those were really fun to do. And yeah, they had really smart design with it being oh yeah, you actually have to pay attention and do timing with when you're running and when you're homing attacking and when you're rail grinding.
Right, and what's neat about the towers is that if you do end up falling, there's little zip ties or zip lines that pop up. So you don't have to reclimb everything. If you were 3/4 of the way up, you can jump back to halfway up, which is neat.
I did not know that. That's actually pretty nice.
It's a little oh you fell. Don't worry. You can get back up to where you were pretty quick instead of having to restart from the very bottom. So neat.
Yeah.
That's good.
You can keep the momentum going.
Oh man, momentum.
Don't say that word.
Right. This game doesn't really have... Well, okay. Go on.
My next point is Sonic's momentum is so good that I sometimes feel like I am flying in the air when I control him. I get the smallest sensation, like when you drive over a hill quickly in a car.
You mentioned that earlier, and I thought you meant careening off the hill and not literally driving over a little hill.
No, just you have that little hill where the train tracks are, and you go over just a little too quickly because you're oh, I'm not used to this area of town, and you get that oh, I'm just slightly airborne. My tires are still touching the ground, but I'm just slightly airborne, and I feel that little thing like where the skull connects to the spine. Like it's back in there in the lizard part of your brain where it's like, oh, I'm flying. And I feel that a little bit when I'm playing this game. It's nice. I don't know if you guys got that. I guess
I
not.
did as well.
Right.
Oh, you did?
I was just sitting here like having a deja vu moment because you said exactly that earlier, and I was like, "What? What? Oh no! What happened?"
There's some nice. I mean I like the way Sonic feels. He definitely has momentum in the air. There are times though where like when he hits like boost paths and is doing a thing, and I find myself like not necessarily pushing forward, and then after he's been moving and doing stuff he just stops dead, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. Which I mean it works in the context of this game. I wouldn't mind a slightly more momentum-y Sonic in the next one, but the game would have to be designed around it. This one, it's like, oh, you can have the smaller platforms because Sonic isn't going to just slide off into nothing.
Wait, what do you mean like he instantly stops? Like when you're running and you let go of the stick, he stops? Because I like that.
Yeah, or it's even a thing where like, oh, you hit a boost pad, you let go, like he'll still just stop dead after a second. Like it's not, there isn't, sometimes it feels a little abrupt if he's going really fast. Other times it's fine. It's not like a major complaint. It's just like something that every once in a while I'll throw myself off thinking that Sonic's going to keep going, but he doesn't.
Well, I think that's because we've played previous Sonic games, and so it's like if I let go of the stick, he will keep running.
Yeah, exactly.
especially like if I hold down the boost button and I let go of the stick holding forward,
right,
he will continue going forward. But in this game, he does not. So it's like, oh, I have to reprogram myself because if I stop pressing forward, Sonic just stops going forward.
Yeah, and it tripped me up a lot on the cyberspace stages because again, I'm so used to just
Me too.
I just press the boost button and I boost forward, but it's like, oh no, I have to if I do that and I let go, nope, he just stops there. So it's like, yeah, it's a lot of it's not bad like design wise. It's just you just have to get used to it because it's different.
Right, it is different, and so like it sometimes throws me off. And like I said, it's not like a major complaint or oh this game is bad, but I'm just like, oh. Yeah, I guess it is more a reprogramming thing. Although I did take very easily going back to homing attack being on a different button, which really confused me the first time I went back to Unleashed after playing like Generations and Forces.
To go back to Sonic instantly stopping when you let go of the control stick, I really, really, really like that because I've been playing Unleashed lately. And the first level to introduce Stomp to you, like you learn Stomp in the hub world, yeah, that's nice. But the first level where you use Stomp is in an ice level. It's in Alaska Day, it's in Cool Edge Day, where you have ice physics everywhere. And it's like, hey, not only you're dealing with ice physics, but also learn how to stomp. And when you stomp, if you are going forward and you jump and you press stomp, he continues forward. And there are little switches on the ground where it's like you have to press the stomp button 3 times. Well, I can't do that if Sonic keeps careening forward. It would be nice if he, instantly stopped when I let go of the control stick like he does in Frontiers, and it feels really good to me. And it's like, this is what maybe should have happened in Unleashed a little bit.
Oh, maybe. Ah, okay.
Those are my onions.
I'm okay with your onions. They're cool onions. Put them on the shelf.
I'm going on to my do not like point of the bullet points. Sonic's home attack is too slow in cyber stages. There is way too much cooldown from enemy to enemy. I feel like in Unleashed it was like pow, 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 pow. But in Frontiers it's like pow, pow, pow. Like it does not allow you to home attack the next thing. It allows you to home attack like balloons, like over and over, like pow, pow, pow. But enemies, it's like a whole second of cooldown. And it's really annoying. Why can't I attack enemies as fast as I attack balloons, just like I did in Unleashed?
It quickly teaches you, I guess I should not deal with the enemies then because it's faster not to. Which is, I guess, generally a rule, but like when they're there for you to hit over ledges and stuff, you want to do it. but an air
Yeah,
boost and
Frontiers
stop is
teaches you
somehow
to
better.
avoid enemies at all costs, which is like I thought I was playing Sonic. What?
Right. There's no animals inside the fray. It's fine. Ignore them.
There's just ancient souls. In
Right.
there,
It's
don't worry
just.
about
Oh man, are there souls in the big Titans? No, it's just Titan.
it. Steven, what's your next?
Yeah, it's okay. Go on.
My next thing on here is gathering skill pieces should be like instant, like they should just gravitate into you. I feel like
Yes.
this is something that they should have learned in Unleashed as well. You should not have to gather all the skill pieces like you did in Unleashed, just like you do here, even though you can max out your skill points really, really fast in Frontiers. They should just gravitate towards you. You should not collect them. I think it's dumb. Next skill point is I wish the islands looked more like Sonic. We already talked about that, right? Yeah. We talked about it in
Yeah, at one point or
previous
another.
videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to press the sidestep way in advance. It's so delayed. This is what I wrote. Sidestep
It's
is
true,
a little
though.
slow. Yeah. I can barely see the Cocos. We already talked about that. The upgrade. Oh. If you have all your like HUD displays turned on and the graphic thingamabob, the upgrade indicator will not stop flashing. I want to save up for something better, but it wants me to know that
Yes.
something lesser is available.
I hated that, yeah, because when I see the exclamation mark, I'm like, I don't like I want to save it up, but it's like, nope, you gotta use it, and I'm like, fine, I'll spend it. I mean, ultimately, again, it was so easy to upgrade everything anyway, so it ultimately didn't really matter, but still, yeah, I didn't
can-
like how the notification thing, yeah, that bugged me.
Yeah.
You can turn that off in the graphics settings, but still, like, don't. I'm saving up for something better. Don't tell me something lesser is available. Cut it out. We need a first-person mode for looking up. I feel like this game has a lot of, oh, the thing I want to collect is there. Let me look up and see where the things are that get me to the thing that I want to get to.
Yeah.
And we spend so much time looking up. It'd be nice if I could just click R3 or RS or whatever it's called on
Whatever
Switch.
it is.
Just the right stick. I feel like if I could just click that, I could go into first person mode. It'd be nice.
Related to that, in terms of tracking down what you're trying to get, this would have been clunky to do it most ways, I imagine, but if I could look at one of the, you've been calling them athletic challenges, and just quickly, immediately identify if I've done it already to get the memory token or not,
Yes.
that'd be great.
It'd be great if if rails turn blue after I've grinded on them.
Yeah. Yeah, something
Or
like
if-
that. Just to be like, hey, if you're just looking real quick for memory tokens, don't bother with this one because you already did it. I'd be like, cool.
If you collected the memory token for this athletic challenge, they're a different color now, and now you know, hey, I've been up there. I don't need to go
Yeah.
that way. Yeah, that'd be
That'd be
nice.
so helpful.
It'd also be nice if
don't
I
mind-
collect.
Well, I don't mind that because you see on the map where all the memory tokens are. So if you look on the map and you don't see, like, there's nothing there, so it's like, oh, I already got that. It's like,
Oh, I don't want to keep going in and out of my map for one thing.
Yeah,
But two, the rails
you go-
aren't on the map, so I won't know what connects to what if I do.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there's this memory token, and it's connected to these things, but it's like, did I go on those things yet? I don't remember because there's 300 different athletic challenges on this island. I can't memorize which ones I've been and haven't been on. It'd be nice if they were a different color after I've completed them or something like that. The sidestep is not catered to the cyber stages at all. That's true. The sidestep feels good during Guardians. It feels fine in the overworld. The sidestep doesn't really work in the cyber stages.
it helps,
I feel
it
like
helps that in the
gap-
cyber stage.
gap-
Helps in the cyber stages. There are more so like dodge rolls rather than an actual sidestep.
dodge roll.
I mean, when you use the sidestep in like the main hub, it kind of feels like more like you're using it to dodge rather than like actually like sidestepping. Versus then cyber.
No, I mean, like they're like in the air athletic challenges where it's like you have to sidestep, And it's like, if I sidestep to the left, I know that I won't careen off of the path.
There are a couple.
But if I'm in a cyber stage, like, it's like, oh, if I sidestep, I don't fit in that gap. It's like, well, great.
Yeah, I forgot there are a couple athletic challenges that do have those, like, actual sidestep ones. And yeah, like, every time the game tries to make you use the sidestep as, like it's unleashed, yeah, it doesn't work.
Well, it's fine in the athletic challenges, but it's not in the cyber stages. I wrote, I don't like the forced way Sonic references previous games. We already talked about that. He brings up previous things unnaturally. I feel like when Sage says, you and Sonic teamed up to stop the Ark from falling, like, couldn't she have just said, you guys teamed up to save a space station from falling to, it's like if I haven't played the games, it's like, oh, they teamed up to save a space station from falling to the Earth and destroying the Earth. It's like, if you just say Ark, it's like, well, I don't know what Ark means. Wait, what is that? I think if you kept things more vague, it's like, oh, now you're giving me context within the words you're saying instead of just labeling them with words. Does that make sense?
I do think there is kind of like a part of overcompensation in, after years of being very vague of like, oh, like, especially with Forces of like, oh, are like the events of the previous games, did they actually happen? Because we seem to be in like another world and like the whole two worlds thing, so it's like, that's
not what I'm saying.
No, but I mean, like, by being very blatant of being like, oh, we're not just saying, oh, you, Sonic and Eggman both teamed up to save the world, by specifically saying they stopped the Ark, and it's like, and they did this and they did that, so it's like, by they're being very blatant of being like, okay, the Sonic Adventure 2 did happen. And it's like, I think,
no, that's fine. No, that's fine. But like, if you say you saved a massive meteor-sized space station from crashing into the Earth, and therefore has saved everyone's lives, like, I feel like that makes more meaningful to me if I've never played SA2. Or if you just say Ark, I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, if you describe the events in a very succinct, small but descriptive way, like, it's like you've wrapped up that whole threat in a way where it's like, oh, okay.
Let me throw out a middle ground that the game also does. They could have just flashed back to show it like they do sometimes, but not all the time.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, they do it. I think they only do it like 3 times, and twice with Tails. Like, twice in the same moment with Tails, where it's Station Square and then the Deadly Six, and then the second time is Knuckles when it's
from 3
Sonic.
and K.
Right, like, you couldn't even just do Generations or something. Like, no, it's
or
very
adventure.
much.
Like, if Tails had not mentioned Infinite, if he had instead said like a gem that literally bends reality, like, that would have been more impactful.
I don't know, because I feel like at that point, like, if they kept doing that, it would be like, oh, they're ashamed to actually acknowledge it, because they're like, oh, they're dancing around.
It has nothing to do with shame. No, it has to do with, like, making sure that both sides of, like, both Sonic fans and newcomers can appreciate the same media. It's like, am I the only one who thinks that?
Like, I can understand what you're going for, but I feel like just like that, like, trying to imagine the story, like be like having it be like, oh, like having all of the illusions be very vague references of being like, oh, if you know, you know, rather than
not vague. Like, just don't say the actual words for those things. Just describe them.
No, but I would consider that vague. It's like at that, it's like, oh, back when we encountered that mysterious gem that warps space and time, rather than just saying infinite. And it's like, at that point, it's like, oh, it's easier, it's faster, instead of having to just dance around the name infinite.
I feel like it takes the same amount of time, but all right.
It's almost, what I'll say, it's almost making the other things start to sound more interesting, like a gem that bends space and time. What am I doing playing this game?
Yeah, it makes me want to play the other game.
Yeah, but then you're playing Forces, and that's...
See, they're just doing you a favor.
Right.
Well, they're like, don't worry about it. It's just Infinite.
It's like how I couldn't handle it after Infinite attacked. One wrong turn and I fall apart. I mean, I guess that is like...
As a new player, that means nothing to me.
Right.
But it's like if you say, if Tails is like, it's like the time where we encountered that stone that bends reality itself. It's like, whoa, that sounds really
but who
fucking
talks
awesome. I
like
can't
that?
wait to play that.
Right, but
Who talks like that?
But I guess also it's not that the
Tails, if he was written that way.
right, or it could have
I
been like
have a
it's like how I
controversial
couldn't
thing to
handle it
say.
after I thought you
All right,
died.
let's hear what Chris says because we have to move on to.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, we're like 3 hours in.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I said we're gonna be going for 5.
All right.
Let's see if I'm right.
Sonic doesn't have a drop shadow in some of the worlds, making it harder to land on things. Leveling up one at a time with Coco is awful. I think we already all agree on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
If
the
we talked
third.
about it, let's just go over, skip it, please.
Oh, you want to talk about it?
No, I mean, like, let's just not even say we've done it.
I mean, we did talk about it.
just
I just went
pass it.
yes. Like I was agreeing, saying yes, we talked about it.
Okay. In the third island, the bridge is out, and I can clearly make it across, but there's an invisible wall. It won't go away until Sonic runs across it in a cutscene.
Is
Really
this
annoying.
section weirdly tight time-wise for you guys, or did I just not understand how you were supposed to do that? Because I timed out 4 different times before barely eking through.
I did it my first time.
It
Okay, I just
took
sucked
me
in.
a couple times. Yeah, I think it was like the third or fourth. Yeah.
I think it's because
The first time I didn't realize there was a timer, so I failed. But then I was like, oh, there's a timer. Okay.
yeah, because you had done because the game expects that you have fought like a couple of like the big guys that like throw you into the air, and then you do that the
Spider.
diving, yeah, spider, that you do the diving down. So it's like, okay, you've done this a couple times, so you get the idea, and then you go and do it. Actually, wait, no, I died. I didn't time over, but I died once, and then I did it the second time. Like that's what it was. So it's like I didn't time over, but I did die. So I did have to restart it a second time. But yeah, I did.
think
I
it
was able to
stood
do
out.
it pretty fast.
I think it stood out for me because I kept timing out at the very end and watching Sonic land safely on the ground.
Oh,
Yeah, that happened to me once. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Sonic.
Anyway,
I wrote ring upgrading by only 6 rings at a time. Ridiculous.
agree.
Upgrading your ring level. I think it's stupid that you start off at 400 and your maximum is 1000, so that means you upgrade like 1.5 times throughout the whole course of the game. So you start at 1 and then you end up at 2.5 at the end of the game, and that's it for your health. I think that's ridiculous. And your speed only doubles at the end of the game if you maximize it. You might as well just take those 2 stats out of the game completely. Because even playing with 400 rings is completely easy, even on hard mode. Swapping ring and speed is 1 at a time as well. Yeah, okay. Killing enemies is too slow and so. Oh yeah, I covered that. Hovering enemies. No. Screw that. No. Enemies won't let you open the map. If there are nearby enemies, you can't look at the map, and you cannot look at what collectibles you need to get. That needs to go away. That's annoying. Cocos are too hard to see, and there's no way of knowing which ones you have on the map. Like, let's say that, you don't buy any from fishing. Like, is it possible to upgrade completely without fishing? Does that mean that there are 3,000 Cocos across these 5 islands or 4 islands?
As far as I'm aware, I think the
I don't think there are.
I think the Cocos appear random. Like the reason why they aren't on the map is because the Cocos appear random. Like
No, they're not. They're like literally a part of the map, and they do not respawn with like the Starfall events either. I've tested it.
yeah, because there have been a couple times where I've run past an area and then I turn around and then suddenly the Cocos appear. So it's like it feels like
That might be the switch.
Yes, I don't know if it's because of pop-in and just Cocos just suddenly show up, or if it's like literally Cocos are not there and then they suddenly appear like after you trigger something.
That might be a Switch thing. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Starfall event slot machine graphic is too big and in a terrible spot.
agreed.
Yeah, it is.
Also,
Go on.
no, sorry, I just had to say I had to learn through Twitter that you can actually stop the thing too, which wasn't
What?
fun.
You can stop it?
Yep.
It's up on the D-pad.
I
think?
didn't know that.
It is up.
It happened to me on Island 4 while I was trying to climb a thing. That's
Yeah.
the worst time.
So it'd be nice if, next to the graphic, the big ass graphic that takes up like a quarter of the screen showing the slot machine, if there was a little thing saying, hey, press up on the D-pad to do the thing.
Yeah, I didn't know until Island 3. Like, by Island 3, I think I just accidentally pressed up and it stopped, and I'm like, oh, it stops. Like, the whole time, I just kind of just kept running and then just waited for, like, I didn't mind the big, like, screen because every time it comes, all I would do is just kind of run in circles until everything went through, because I'm like, oh, I want to go and get all of the, like, I just want to like try to like spam to get as many coins as possible. But then when I realized, oh, you can press the up button to do it yourself, I'm like, oh, that makes things a lot easier.
I found out through Twitter, Trav guy was like, hey, if you look at the keyboard list on the PC version, it tells you that you can press this to do the slot machine. And it's like, oh, cool. Well, we don't have a list on consoles. So, like, if you're on console, I guess console, you're SOL. And then someone on Twitter was like, it's up on D-pad. And it was like, great. So I find out from Twitter and not the game how to play the thing.
Yep, that was exactly when I found out. Was that exact string of tweets?
Yeah.
So, thank you for your sacrifice, Steve.
I had 100% of the game before I even found that out. So yay. Boost music filtering. Take it out, or at least give us an option in the menus to disable it, because I want to listen to the music unfiltered, please.
It's a great thing about the PC version. There's a mod for that already, and it is nice.
Oh, baby.
Ooh.
Interrupted by Guardians too often. The title doesn't need to pop up so often, and it doesn't need to linger for so long. I'm just running around doing my thing, and all of a sudden it goes whooshing ninja. And then you gotta wait for the title to go away. Now you can run.
Now you can run away from them.
Yeah.
Now you can run away and do whatever it is you were trying to do.
Right.
You can't stomp more than once after going airborne, which you could in Unleashed. And also, when airborne, you can't air boost an additional time after hitting a spring. I also find that annoying because I am used to playing Unleashed in Generations.
Same.
Okay. Are we ready for the weird section? Are we going too long? The weird section's short.
Weird, baby.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
I wrote gears in regular -ass enemies instead of bosses.
Yeah, that is weird, isn't it? On this playthrough I'm doing now, I was on the second island, Chaos Island, and I was just running around filling out the map first, and I was beating up normal enemies along the way, and I was like, I have
Here's
to
a
beat
gear.
like one of the Guardians. I don't have to actually do them. Oh.
Yeah. I found at least, I'm pretty sure across all things, I got at least 3 or 4 gears from random drop encounters, which I think is fun. It's weird, but I think it's also fun of being like, yeah, here's just another example of you don't actually have to fight the Guardians if you don't want to. There are other ways of getting the right amount of gears.
Oh yeah.
Just Psyloop 6 hours.
I like the option of doing that. It's just weird that there's this big monolith, and the reward, no experience points from those big guys, just a gear. And it's like, oh, also a random enemy on the ground might give you one. Oh,
Yeah.
it feels inconsistent.
Yeah.
This one's, I guess, story. The islands are all about confinement, but some emeralds are just hanging out instead of being locked up.
Like when the game just gives you one for rolling cocos around in a flower field or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cocos just like hand it to you, like, oh, this one wasn't locked up, but we were holding on to it, and now you can have it.
That is
Go dance, Sonic.
Yeah, that was weird.
a little weird.
Go piss, girl.
I wonder, we could theorize, but that might take another hour, so let's not right now.
It's okay to call it weird, right?
It is okay to call it weird. We can theorize on it in another video maybe one day.
Oh boy. I collected a handful of purple coins in the open zone, but I easily get 300 in a Starfall event. So what's the point of even having purple coins in the hub world?
They're so sporadic too. Like I'd almost forget about them sometimes.
Yeah, they're just kind of there, and it's like, well, I already have 999.
Yeah,
I guess I'll pick them up.
Yeah, I was worried of being like, oh, is this going to be hard? Like, do I have to like save like for the big things? Because it's like, yeah, like the coins are so sporadic. And then I got like I think on my second or third rain shower Starfall thing, I got like a jackpot, so I ended up getting like 300 to 500 coins. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm good now.
That's right.
I wrote, all right. I'm skipping a couple because I'm like, that's dumb.
I want to hear the dumb one.
Let's do it.
All right, the dumb one is, why do Sonic and Knuckles look like they want to fuck each other?
Because it's true.
But I was gonna skip it, David.
Well, it's
I know what they're going for, but it's a little exaggerated sometimes, isn't it?
right, I guess it's supposed to be like an anime thing.
I know what they're going for.
And, like,
It's supposed to be like an anime thing, but it doesn't come off that way.
Yeah, it's awkward.
it's
I like
it's
the
weird.
idea, but not the execution.
they're in love.
Let's see. There's no official reason stated for. No, wait. No. Sorry, skip that.
According to all known laws of aviation.
We already talked about sometimes it's a sign, a big old ring. We never see how Big made it into cyberspace, and we never see him come out at the end.
Yeah.
So is he still stuck there? Because we see Tails, Knuckles, and Amy come out. Big never comes out and joins
what
the
did they
circle.
say about this earlier? I
big.
feel like we had a good answer.
Right, because he's the
do
most
whatever.
powerful character in the Sonic universe, so he's able to just enter it and leave on his own free will, clearly. Or maybe there's like a BBFA 5 or 6 or.
All right, I'm going to headcanon this. Okay, we know there was a cyberspace portal on Angel Island. Angel Island crashed at some point near Big's house at the Mystic Ruins. One fell off, and he found it and was like, "Oh, what's this do? Oh, a pond." And then Sonic appeared.
Oh,
Right.
And then when he was done, he simply left. He didn't
Well,
try
I always
to get
had
out.
a way out. I was just fishing.
Yeah, he wouldn't have known he was locked in or not, the way Tails, Knuckles, and Amy are, because he didn't try to leave until after the threat was dealt with. So it just worked out.
why aren't?
Like, he didn't.
Oh, go on. I'm sorry.
Well, like, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles have, like, they get sucked into cyberspace, sure, but they also then get locked into cages in the real world on the Starfall Islands. But Big doesn't get locked in a cage.
No.
He's just in cyberspace fishing.
Right. So either Sage is either she's
unaware.
Like,
I think
She's
right,
miscalculated
either
Big's potential.
she doesn't know he's there, or she doesn't care, like, or whatever, or she's so afraid of his power she doesn't even dare. Man, wait, why can't Knuckles just get out of cyberspace? Why can't he just run through the level? Are they
Right. Sonic just runs through the level and he's out.
I mean, is it that they're
And
not?
we know all the other characters are capable of running through levels.
Are they not in the levels? Is it because they're like stuck in between?
Well,
like,
we also
or-
don't know what they're experiencing, because we know, like, well, Sonic's experiencing, like, the level, like, memories of his past, like, adventures. But we aren't sure, like, we know Tails, like, Tails says that he has, like, a thing of, like, oh, I, like, met, like, a version of myself who was, like, taunting me and saying that I was
bully.
just, like, Sonic's, it was like a
Yeah, what was up with that?
yeah, so I think it's supposed to be that
he's the only
Tail-
one that has that sort of thing. Like,
I
nobody
assume
else
Amy-
just outright
I-
insults.
He's the only one who reports
Yeah,
it.
I assume Amy and Knuckles both had, like, something that they were dealing with that prevented them from escaping, but it's like Sonic was able to, like, something that they weren't able to run away from. But it's like, we only know what happened with Tails, so I assume something was going on with those two. We just don't know what it is.
We need more comics or animations. I want to see where's the animation where Tails gets yelled at by himself.
Yeah. So yeah, the ending cutscene. Tails, Knuckles, and Amy are like, "Hey, let's undab ourselves from this world and go into the digital world, and then help Sonic in that way somehow through the power of friendship."
Yeah, that bothered.
They're Sonic heroes.
Look, that was probably a result maybe of the development cuts, right? But I wish they just done anything there to be like, just have a throwaway line like, we're gonna go into cyberspace and fight off the corruption, and then they blink away. It wouldn't have been good, but at least would have explained what happened, which the game doesn't. They just hold hands and blink, and Sonic's like, "Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
all right, let's go."
I feel like the idea, like the intention is supposed to be they reabsorb the corruption that he had taken from them in the first place, and that like brings Sonic back to Prime, and then gets them stuck back in the cyberspace. Like I think that was supposed to be going, but it is still, it's also, it's cheesy, but it's like, it's whatever.
Well, then
I understand what was going on.
How did Eggman get out? And why did he stay out?
Because he didn't power of friendship.
Eggman got out after the towers were deactivated, right? That's what was holding the end in. So I think the towers are what was containing anything inside of cyberspace. So he just
wandered out.
But Tails, Amy, and Knuckles were still all cybery. They didn't get out until the very end, right? When did they get out? I don't
know. They also got out when the towers got destroyed.
Right. So
they did.
Right, so all 6 towers are turned off. There's that scene where it's like it's all red and Sonic's like, ah, and then he becomes a static model, and everyone else like show up around him while it's still all red, and then it fades to black and then fades back into we're in the real world standing on top of a tower. We don't see. Yeah, I don't know. I guess Eggman just also left, like they all left. So then when they reabsorbed the thing, I don't know. It's a little muddy.
Well, because I guess
have to work with them.
Since Sonic never like absorbed any corruption from Eggman, Eggman was just his own separate thing. So it's like, it's like Eggman was free. Eggman was stuck in cyberspace alongside them. When they were freed, so was Eggman. Because like, I mean, that was what Sage was trying to do, is find some way to free Eggman without without freeing the end,
letting the end out.
And then ultimately it's like she figured that Sonic's gonna do this anyway, so it's like at this point just let him do it. Eggman breaks free, and then she's like, Sonic and Eggman, like once Sonic is saved, then she's like, Sonic and Eggman go and like help, and then like that's the only way to stop it. And then
right. Although the first thing she says is like, we need to put you back, like the moment he gets out. She's not like, okay, we did it. She's like, you need to go back. Like, why are you here? Go away. Go back.
That made me laugh. She's just immediately like, get the fuck back in here.
It'd be nice if there was some subtle storytelling. If like in the first level, if you see those capsules that were encapsulating like Knuckles and Tails, if they were like coming after you in the first level, like, hey, we gotta capture him, but you keep escaping them. That'd be nice, right?
Or maybe like in the cyberspace, the very first cyberspace level, it could have been the thing, and Sonic.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes. Well, I thought you said more than once. Did you just mean the one?
No,
time?
just the first.
Just the first one. Okay, then yes, I agree with you.
Though that would be an interesting wrinkle that like they could add to that they could have added to the cyberspace stages, of have the enemies be like little Sage things that are trying to capture you to like quote unquote like protect you. And they like that's what you're fighting. Like, I think that would be like fun instead of just being the regular enemies again.
Thanks, Sage, for trying. Rest in peace.
Thank you, Rom.
Did you have more?
See you next
game,
Sage. No, that's in my list. I think we'll see Sage next game. Oh, hey, you say things.
Oh, I hope we do.
She
first
better
off.
be.
Well, she will be, because she's teased, and at the end of the credits, it's like, I'm gonna get her.
Yeah,
she's teased, but there's a cynical part of me that's like, if they really want to change direction, it could just be Eggman got his daughter back. You're not supposed to think about it more. It's just a sweet little thing. But it sure is weird to tease that after showing his immense pain and loss on that cliffside.
Daughter, I'm glad you're alive. I'll put you in storage. Metal Sonic, go after Sonic.
I'm not saying she'll be back in any good or bad capacity. She'll just be back in the next game because she has to be, because it was teased. Like, in any capacity,
so.
she will be back.
Yeah,
What's the weird thing you were gonna say though?
Oh, why are the Cocos inside of the ancients? What is a Coco?
Should we talk about the Coco? And how confusing they
It's
are?
probably the last thing we haven't mentioned yet, so yeah.
The sage said they're good luck tokens that the ancients created. So I guess it's just a little stone thing that they make and then shove inside
Their
of them.
souls inhabit them?
Well, I think the souls inhabit
Maybe?
them after they, like,
Yeah.
they all went into cyberspace to preserve their hopes and dreams and souls, even though I guess some of their souls got burned trying to keep the end in place. So it's like, that's weird and freaky. But yeah, somehow they don't really explain it, but like I don't know if it's like their actual soul or just their digitized version of their soul, or if their digitized version is the real soul because of things. Enter the Coco that stayed behind because it is just an inanimate thing that was carved. Like they weren't designed to hold their souls, but that's sort of what it evolved into. Like it's remembering the ancient that it was inside, and that's why they're like kind of confused, like they're going through like those last moments of what their hosts, for lack of a better word, went through, like something weird or something. It is.
Well, let's look at the motivation of the ancients. Like, they were uploading not just their memories, but their essences. Like Tails says, their very essences, like who they are. They were trying to upload everything they could about themselves, but like they were uploading it to cyberspace, not to the Cocos.
Right.
So how did any of that end up in the Cocos? And if you look at the Elder Cocos, like there's the Elder and the what else? The other one?
The Hermit.
The Hermit.
Yeah.
The Hermit like connects to cyberspace. He's like, oh, I'm gonna dream now. I'm done talking to you. I'm gonna go back to the dream of cyberspace. So he can connect to it. And I'm assuming like maybe all the other Cocos can connect to cyberspace. But like, at what point did they become alive? Because they were just lucky charms. They were just little pieces of stone that we're gonna put it inside my chest cavity.
Technically, aren't the Coco, aren't they actually are able to connect to cyberspace? Because there's the whole thing about like when everything kind of like switches over and you get that flashback of like seeing like the ancients back in their time, and that switches like when they're like kind of like going up, having like served their purpose. So I think that is supposed to be like, oh, like switching over into the cyberspace, reliving the memory, and then switching back.
But the Cocos seem to all share the thing that's like all the Cocos have like the last memory of them before they died. And it's like, Tails is like, isn't it kind of cruel that we're helping them in this way? Like, I don't know what he means by that, by the way. It's like, isn't it kind of cruel that we're helping them relive this memory? Like, we need to find these parts for this thingamabob so they can fight whatever enemies that they think they're fighting. And then once they think that they have the parts, and once they think their hero comes, then they release their memories and die. It's like, what the fuck's...
Just gotta access the digital dream, bro.
The digital dream.
Right.
It's pretty wild. I know it's man. Oh, apparently Azuka said no evil Coco exists, so that's important.
Okay, well,
Like right now?
I'm gonna add that.
I mean, I'm looking at the Sonic News Network page about the Coco, just to see what if anybody's like written things. Oh, right.
Someone asked that at some point and he had to answer. I like it.
Right. Oh, the design of the Coco, they're based on...
Doesn't answer what they are. He just says none of them are evil.
What are they called again? They're based on something neat and cool. Something...
It's in Secret Hideout.
The Haniwa. That's what they're called. Put a picture up. Or don't.
Haha, you have to edit.
Past a certain point. Come on.
Jonathan, you have to
right.
edit.
I would assume at some point even the footage has just stopped and it's a black screen now.
No, straight up. Like, this is just going to be my gameplay footage. I don't know what the fuck.
It should all be Forces.
But what
gameplay
is this
footage.
about the Haniwa, David?
All right, they are terracotta clay figures that were made for ritual use and buried with the dead as funerary objects during the Kofun period, 3rd to 6th centuries AD of the history of Japan.
And
They're meant to like do a protect thing, right?
but then
But then what?
they got moved away from the funeral mounds.
Yes, right. They were moved. I don't remember the rest. Although, I mean, they don't come to life like the Cocos, as far as I know. Right. Originally, they were set up on top of the funeral mound, so it is believed they had a purpose in funeral rituals. However, as the Haniwa became more developed, they were set towards the outside of the grave area. It is thought that they were used as boundary markers for the borders of the gravesite. There is a theory
It changed over time.
Yes, there is a theory that the soul of the deceased would reside in the Haniwa. Ooh. There are ones that are equipped with weapons and armor. They are thought to be containers for souls. So they took
They also look like
they took a thing and then they made it Sonic.
like those little dudes in Animal Crossing too.
Yes. Right. There's that huge grave on the first island, Kronos. It's just like, yeah, this is
There
where
is a giant grave.
and I'm like, oh wow, like they're all dead, and you just got to make some pretty lights.
A shape.
Yeah, got to make a shape with the. Is that disturbing the dead? I don't know.
Don't worry about
Not
it.
if they designed the thing to be turned and make a shape
Right.
to solve a puzzle. I think if they design it that way, no, it's not disrespectful for you to solve it.
Okay. Hopefully, I mean, Sonic's like, yeah, desecration. Oh, that's the pun. Oh, slightly unrelated, but here's a weird thing I was reminded of. Just told. Okay, so Sage was like, "Oh, Eggman, you're about to die. I got to suck you into cyberspace." Cool.
Well,
And then she's like, "You just got to hide here." If Sonic hadn't shown up, what was she gonna do? What was Eggman gonna do? Was he just gonna be in cyberspace forever?
Why not?
Okay.
it's like the end of Generations, except he doesn't get out. Everything's solved.
I mean, think
damn
about
it,
Sage as
Sonic.
she is a program, but at the same time she can change over time. But this is like the beginning of her programs, at least as far as we know. Her first protocol is to protect him.
Right.
So that's what she does at the beginning. She protects him. It doesn't really matter like if this works or not. It's like, oh, this will protect you. I have learned about the end. The only way to protect you is to put you in here.
With
So she
with
does
the end, technically.
Yes, but the end. She knows that the end can't do anything in cyberspace.
True. Except
I think it's also kind of funny that she pulls Eggman in through the portal, but she doesn't pull the Egomatic in there. But somehow the Egomatic ends up in there anyway.
yeah.
I just thought that was funny.
It's from his memories.
It's the digitized creation. Oh.
The end is everywhere.
The end is all of us.
The end isn't supreme, I guess.
Yeah. I think the end is a really cool concept that didn't get explored at all in this game. I hope it comes back in the next game, like Chris said.
It might.
I hope it comes back so we can further explore it, because it's like, I am infinite. I have destroyed civilization after civilization for billions of years, etc., and now I've come to your planet. Oops, you put me in a Pokeball. Now I'm out. Oh, you shot me. I'm dead now.
Right.
What?
Well,
I feel
I
like
mean-
the end. I feel like the end has to come back because it's like it.
It has
because
to.
It's treated in this game as the god to end all gods. Like Sonic. Like what's that line it says
Yeah.
about like, oh, like you fought beasts and other things. Like I'm not.
And machines, etc.
machines. But it's like this is like the god of all gods. Just to have it go like that, it's like no, like there has to be more about it that's going on. And I think
Well-
Well, but like, it's like this is like a yin and yang situation where it's like it says like life is chaos and I am order, I am nothingness. It's like, well, if you destroy one half of a balance, then what happens?
Right. I mean, I guess it's possible that maybe not all of the end was there. Well, there's that flashback, right? And we see the last Titan suck up some stuff. And then they're like, oh, he's dead now. and then he falls. That Titan falls to Earth, presumably with the end or parts of the end inside of it. The other three are like, we've got to do some other stuff. Like they fly off, I guess, to keep on fighting. Presumably they're fighting the end. I guess they're also absorbing pieces of the end. But there's nothing to say that they sucked up all 100% of the end. Maybe there is a small sliver of the end that escaped and has been just limping across the universe, not as powerful. And who knows? Maybe that part could limp back and go hello.
It is the end.
I did find it interesting that the voice of the end, like the voice of the end, like the female voice is Cindy Robinson, Amy, and then the male voice of the end, like near the like when he's fully formed, is Dave Mitchell, Knuckles' voice actor. So it really just felt like that they didn't want to hire another voice actor, so they just got the two of them that they already had just to play them.
I couldn't even tell that there were different voice actors.
Yeah, no,
I just thought they were messing around in post.
I didn't know. I didn't recognize either until like I looked into it. The voice,
That's really cool.
I completely recognize Ryan Bartley as Sage because it is the exact same voice that she does as Rom from ReZero. So it's like she's doing the exact same inflections when she's talking to Sonic and just being like, "What do you think you're doing over here?" And it's just like, I just heard her and I'm like, yeah, that's Rom. And then there's also like the people have joked is that she's also Rey from Evangelion in both English and Japanese. And then like the Titans themselves are also very Evangelion coded. So it's like definitely be like, oh, that.
Especially that first one.
Yeah, it's like she feels, but yeah, like, because the first one even has like the teeth of like, and then like the final one has like the wings of the angels. And it's like, yeah, you see that. It's like, oh, the Evangelion comparisons are very intentional.
And the Sega Saturn was in Evangelion. It all connects.
It's all Shinji's fault.
Now what?
That's a good question. Are we done?
Well,
We never solved the mystery of the Coco.
Oh, no, I mean,
Well, do we have to?
I don't think we need to know
With the
100% like what went
Coco.
on there. I think it's like, it's like in Sonic Adventure where they explained enough about what happened with the Echidna tribe and the emeralds and everything, but they're still...
What's there to know? They died.
They all died, yeah. And well, I mean, with the ancients, that's what happened too. They all died. They're dead.
Well, the echidnas didn't upload themselves into stone trinkets.
No, I mean, unless
did they?
Right. I mean, in the animation, that one child's trying to get, I mean, what kind of looks like a Coco head, but it's, so...
A little Coco mask?
Yeah, it looks like a
trying
little
to
Coco.
return the father.
So maybe...
Wait, so the ancients must have gone to like Mystic Ruins Ash area where Angel Island eventually came from.
Right, but I don't know.
They must have
implication is
traveled
that-
out at some point, but doesn't an egg memo or something say they never traveled?
Well, Eggman is like, oh, it's weird that they didn't seem to have any influence beyond these 3 islands, even though there's 5.
But they did.
Right, but I guess it must have been a thing where like they were so few in number at that point that when they migrated from those 3 islands to the area that would eventually become Angel Island, like they were like, okay, here's the Master Emerald and here's the Chaos Emeralds. Although I wouldn't be surprised if the emeralds didn't stay at that shrine the whole time, because there are a lot of things had to have happened between the ancients being nearly wiped out and the Echidna tribe trying to get the emeralds, including like the stuff where 7 shrines are built across the planet for the Chaos Emeralds connected to Light and Dark Gaia. And you had mentioned, and I had forgotten, like, the Babylonians must have known what the Chaos Emeralds were, because you needed them to...
They built a cube that needed them to resurrect Babylon Garden.
Right, so like the emeralds still must have done things, but then eventually settled. Maybe the ancients didn't end up building that shrine. Maybe it was Chaos who ended up building it eventually, like the very last ancient who's now...
Or a different civilization altogether.
Right, or that too. But it's been far removed. Like the ancients had this intention, and it eventually happened where the emeralds are around. The Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald are in one place, and they're being guarded by one person. I mean, because clearly, if the ancients built those emerald vaults that needed keys to unlock, it's like that seems a lot more secure than open air stone.
Some guy.
Yeah, just guarded by one person. So like things
Could be a lot of things, but Knuckles does specifically at that one point say, this reminds me of this stuff back home. So in my eyes, it is them that built it, but it could have been during a period of peace, hence the open airiness of it.
I guess that must be architecture like connected to Sky Sanctuary, because I think Sky Sanctuary is older than the other stuff. Like it even I just floats above Angel Island, so it's floating on its own power, because if the Master Emerald is keeping Angel Island afloat, what's keeping Sky Sanctuary above Angel Island afloat? Yeah.
Willpower.
Yeah.
You were away during our recording when I brought this up, but I think it's also linked. Because if you look at the Elder Ancient, it sure does have echidna hair, and that's a weird little connection. Not to say that this led to the echidnas, but I feel like they're trying to make you think these things are more connected. So I would think that they, in canon, probably built that stuff. It's like, it sure is weird that it gets echidna hair.
Yeah, that is a little echidna. That is weird, huh? Like they get old and get echidna hair, but they're not echidnas. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, oh look, there's an ancient child. Died.
Kick it. Oh. Yeah, that too. It's given us a lot of interesting new wrinkles to consider, if nothing else.
That is
Not really against most of it.
Can't wait to think about it for 3.5 years till the next game comes out.
This has to last us, so make sure you savor it.
right. Yeah, I mean, maybe one of the side games will touch on it. We don't know, and maybe Ian will explore certain aspects in the comics that will then actually tie back to the games, and we'll feel there will be a bit more cohesion between those two branches, instead of it being like, well, the games are canon to the comics, but not necessarily all comic canon to game tier. Like right now, it's probably like some sort of tier canonicity is what I would assume, where like, oh yeah, the comics are canon unless the game contradicts the comic at something, so then ignore the comic.
Yeah,
But-
which is why I feel like at that point that's just too complicated to kind of like go like just to weave around like the whole like complex things of like, oh, what's canon, what's not, what do we do, what do we don't. Just have the comic just tell its own thing. Like maybe they'll decide to like have like, oh, the ancients are now part of this like lore thing, but it's like, oh, like they have a completely like, again, like ancient sage, like whatever, like you could put those things in, but like use using elements from Frontiers, but in their own context, like not trying to be like, oh, Frontiers is now canon in the comic, and now the comic is going to be canon in the game. Like, yeah, it's too much. Just let them all be their own thing, and like, especially because the comics are now having more writers. Like now, it's not just Ian Flynn as the only writer on the comics. Now Evan's doing more. Now you got like Daniel Barnes writing Grabnik Island. You have more writers are probably going to be coming in doing other stuff and collaborating. It's like, yeah, again, it's not going to be only Flynn and only Sega stuff. So it's like, yeah, just make it easier and just have the games and comics be their own thing.
Well, I still feel like if they say, oh, hey, we're bringing in Frontiers things, they're just going to say Frontiers happened. You know, they're not going to bring them in differently. I feel like that would cause the confusion they want to avoid. If Sage suddenly has two origins, one in the game and one in the comics, it would probably be like, oh, look, it's Sage. Asterisk, play Frontiers. But, right. Because there is one obvious story sitting there, and I don't know if they're going to do it, but it's like, if Sage is Eggman's daughter, and Belle the Tinkerer was Mr. Tinker / Eggman's daughter.
Yeah, see, that's the other thing, because again,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's another reason why I cannot really see Sage actually working in the comic, because again, Eggman is like a literal psychopath in the comic. Like he just does not give a fuck about anything and anyone. So to just suddenly have this kind of the grandfatherly-esque Eggman that we see in here.
No, I see it, because to care about your daughter is to care about yourself. Like, some people treat their children as just a way to re-envision their own ego. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, this is mine, this is me. Look at my child. My child's so special because it came from me. Like a lot of people do that IRL, so I can see Eggman doing that. Like,
An
I guess, but just
extension of
the way
oneself.
he's portrayed in Frontiers just does, like, I don't see how it could fit unless you completely rewrite his whole character.
I
And
mean,
like,
you
I don't
could-
really see why.
I haven't read the comics, so,
But I mean, like
yeah.
the comics are meant to be essentially the past is all the games up to Forces. So it's like if
Yeah.
Frontiers is the next game after Forces, it's like the Eggman who's being a bit psychopathic is coming from the same place as the Eggman from Frontiers. I think it's just Eggman can be a bit more complicated, which I'm all for. So it's like, oh yeah, maybe he can come across it depending on what's going on, especially because like in the comic he went through a bunch of things and now he's going through other things. Frontiers is presumably way after that. He's able to maybe get back to a place where he isn't just 100% crazy, because it's even, you know, even in like Generations, if we're classic Eggman looks at modern Eggman and he's like, am I really gonna be like that guy at some point? So it's like Eggman evolved into a place, so there's no reason why he couldn't then further evolve into another place, and comic Eggman could then gel with Frontiers Eggman and then continue on from that point. It's possible, especially if they're trying to be tighter and Ian is there involved in both sides and what have you. Even if there are other comic writers, I mean, it's no different than in the 90s having, you know, 4 or 5 different writers working on Superman or Batman or the X-Men, and somehow it all still being the same characters going through.
It is going to be really funny to be like, if again, I still don't think it is, but if they do make the comics canon, then it's going to be like, oh yeah, between Frontiers and Forces, there was a giant zombie apocalypse in the entire world, and it's just like, oh, we're just going to move on from that. No, never mention it.
No, you
Nope.
think they would, because like, oh, Sonic's getting weirdly corrupted, just like that time.
Just
that
again, yeah,
happened.
oh yeah, there. That's another reason why I don't think the comics are going to be canon, because we already had Sonic being corrupted in the comics too, in a very similar way. So yeah, they
Right.
kind of already did that. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening.
Oh, that's
fine,
okay.
it's fine. Yeah,
what-
it's fine. So
Anyway,
anything-
you should just
last things.
Just read all of Archie instead, I think, is the...
Play Frontiers. Frontiers is a really good game. It is really fun. There's a lot of stuff you can do. I played for like 20. My final playtime was 25 hours, and like yeah, that for a Sonic game, that is like a huge step up. And I just literally just running around the open world, like just literally just not even like having to do anything else, just running around, exploring, collecting whatever I could find, doing those little platforming challenges, just fighting random people, just it's just a good ass experience, and it's just I want to see
Damn.
how they expand upon this for next time.
Expand the ass.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is one of my top Sonic games. I'll say it. One of my tops.
Whoa.
I won't say what number of tops. 10, 5, 3. It's one of the tops. It's one of
Are you
them.
saying we
save
should
that.
do it?
For a tier list video.
Oh god, it's happening. We're starting right now.
No.
Get the tier open.
I like Frontiers. I think it's
Uh,
good. Oh, you keep going.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I think it was really funny how you guys, David and Chris and TJ were like, I don't know about this. But now they're all like, I know about this.
That's right. Because I was
It's something I was. Oh, please go ahead. Go ahead.
I was very skeptical about the idea of an open world Sonic game to begin with, because I'm like, I don't know, it might be way too aimless. Sonic's just gonna run in a field forever. But I think they pulled it off. Like I'm okay to admit that maybe I was wrong, and that Sonic can work in an open world setting, the open zone, as it were. And I think man, like I want them to continue and build on this formula that they've made. I think it can go into some pretty great, interesting areas. Oh no, there was one thing I was gonna say and I've forgotten it. Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah, what was it? What was I gonna say? Man.
Do you remember what we were talking about when you wanted to say it?
You're talking about the like his,
People were talking about things. You're like, oh man, I wish I could say the thing, but they're talking.
yeah, and now I've forgotten it. That's
Uh-oh.
You keep going. Maybe I'll remember.
My version of that, I was leading up to saying it a few hours ago and didn't get to, but I still maintain that a lot of the things I looked at and said I don't know about that are things I would still look at with this final game and say I don't know about that. But the game is greater than the sum of its parts, absolutely. Like if I stood back and looked at some of the stuff in this game, like these specifically rail sections floating over the land, I'd be like, yeah, I'd like that to be better and integrated into the world. But there's something about this game, when you start playing it, those things don't really matter anymore, and it's just fun. So
Yeah, it's kind of like when Azuka was like, hey, it's open zone, not open world. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? And then they play it and they're like, oh, I get it.
yeah.
Oh, I want to.
He's not crazy.
I want to get.
Yeah.
I want to get every memory token. That's what I want to do. I want to do a super 100%.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Join me, David.
Ooh.
Yeah, I wanted to try doing that, but then I was like, okay, I don't need to do that. Oh, I can't believe I completely forgot. Fuck Sky Sanctuary at 1-2. I hate it. I still haven't been
It's
able
not
to
that
S rank
bad.
it. I don't know why that one level is so fucking Crash Bandicoot Platinum Relic level tight with the S rank, while every other level I could S rank no problem. It drove me insane.
Stefan, I'd like to watch you play that like on Series X or PC or something. Because I'm wondering if like, you know, the 30 FPS 720 isn't just, if it's just fucking you up.
Right.
It's possible, but it's like, yeah, it's crazy. And then I realized after that it's a Windmill Isle Act 2, which is another reason why I ended up being familiar. But it also like, why is this giving me so much trouble? I could do Windmill Isle Act 2 no problem. But yeah, it's like that's the one thing I still haven't actually beaten. Like, other than the random like memory tokens that are still lying around maps, I still haven't S ranked that. So I was like, that's just gonna ache away at me for the rest of time until I eventually do it.
You should boost.
I got everything.
You should run on the ground most of the time. You don't want to hit springs, and you don't want to hit the rings unless there's only ring. Like, that's what you should do.
It's the one Sonic level where you have to ignore the top path and take the bottom path. It's antithetical to Sonic.
Yeah, but that's how you do it. It's weird. But you should do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get us out of
More
here.
to say. Okay, good. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you're this far in, you know where to find us and how to subscribe. Thank you so much. Well, let's play this someday and probably say all of this again. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.